Hey everybody, it's John Carlos. Welcome to Movies Worth Talking About with
Eddie!
Eddie. Welcome, Eddie.
I've completely forgotten how to do this.
You say your name and then we talk about movies at great length for 2 or 3 hours.
Okay, I'll try.
Cool. We're here to talk about the Omen Trilogy.
Yes.
I think the seed that was planted for this was that there's this box set by Scream Factory, and they just released like all of them. It's 1, 2, 3, the shitty 4th TV movie and the remake. I've never seen 2 or 3 or 4 or the shitty remake. I just love 1, and I just wanted 1. And I didn't want a box set with sequels that I hadn't seen. And for a long part of my life, I was a sequel snob. Somewhere in my 30s, I started allowing myself to like watch the Psycho sequels and be like, oh, those are good. And watch other other Nightmare on Elm Street sequels that weren't 3 or New Nightmare and go, oh, these are actually pretty fun. I have never gone back, but I really have a thing about like, no, those are classics. Why the fuck would I ever want to watch sequels that are clearly inferior to classics? But in the case of like Psycho, if you guys don't know, there's a lot of valuable things in Psycho 2, 3, and 4.
You're gonna make me cry.
Not so much with like the Jaws sequels, but in my head, all the sequels to me are like the Jaws sequels. And I'm like, no, actually, it turns out the Friday the 13th franchise is a lot of fun. Turns out Halloween 4 is really enjoyable. Like there's a lot of value in all these sequels. So anyway, I've always only liked the Omen 1. That's it. And they don't just fucking sell the Omen 1. They sell a box set. But at one point, it was on Amazon for like $35. And I had birthday money, and I'm like, well, $35. That's like a retail price.
Set?
Yeah, and even just for one movie, I mean, that's $30 retail anyway. So I'm like, you know what? I'll get the box set. I'll probably watch the sequels at some point. And that point is now, like, I have the box set. Let's do this, because you have maybe not vouched for them, like they're great, but like you vouched for them. And I remember
I like them. Yeah.
Other friends I know have vouched for 2 or 3, never the same person. But I'm like, you know what? Let's do it. And before we get into it, I will say this. I'm glad I have the box set. I won't be revisiting the sequels as much as I revisit Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th or Psycho sequels. But I know I will watch these again.
Good.
So it wasn't like, those sucked and I'm stuck with them.
Fuck you, Eddie, for saying they were
they're
good.
Not great.
Oh, we'll get there then.
Yeah. So the Omen 1.
Yeah.
Or do you have a preamble? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I have no history with these movies. I've got nothing to say. So let's just talk about the first movie. It's cool.
Movie.
No, I'll just say, I don't actually own every single one of them. I still have yet to see the TV movie or the remake, so I just have the trilogy, the UK version. That just because I remember when I was looking, they did have like a 4-pack that had like the first 4 movies, and then they had one that was the trilogy, and I was like, oh, cool. And it just turned out to be a UK that you could play anywhere. It wasn't region specific. And I was like, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So, and I got it, and I've been happy with it ever since. I still haven't even watched all the special features or listened to every minute of every commentary yet. But because honestly, I do just kind of pop the movies in and just watch them. This was the first time I watched them 3 in a row back to back. I think I tend to do it like 1 a day. I
did 1 each day. It was nice.
Yeah. It's. I mean, I've seen them enough that like watching them back to back, it was just kind of like, you just it's like it's Omen Day, and I'd recommend it if maybe not if it's your first time. Yeah, maybe if it's not if it's your first time, but if you're familiar with them and everything like that and you haven't done it yet, give it a shot. But yeah, I haven't seen. It was Julia Stiles and Liv Schreiber in one
Liev Schreiber.
of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and Mia Farrow.
Oh, I remember that. Okay.
Yeah,
And which one? And that was that the remake? That was the remake.
that was the remake
right?
in 2006.
Okay. Have
And
you already watched the remake in the TV movie though? Because then you're a few steps ahead of me.
No, I thought about like cheating on you and watching the fourth one in the remake.
Okay.
So here it comes. I don't ever want to watch the remake. Let it be known as if you didn't. You already know, but I fucking hate remakes for the most part.
Yeah.
I could count on maybe two hands the amount of remakes that I'd surely think are worth your time in all of cinema. Like there are very few the Things and the Flies that are that.
Yeah.
I will say and I love Liev Schreiber, and the fact that like I still don't ever plan on watching this. And I am shocked though that David Seltzer wrote the remake.
Oh.
Like I can't believe the guy who wrote the original came back to write the
Yeah.
remake. Which from all I've heard about it is that like it's the same movie, just not directed by Dick Donner, but like it hits all the same beats. So whatever, I don't care.
I've seen photos. I've seen even the "It's All for You," which we'll get to, but yeah, I've seen like clips and things like that.
I remember watching the trailer.
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, the box set comes with a coaster. Like a neat little DVD-shaped coaster of the remake.
Yeah.
And you know what? Maybe one day when I'm really bored, I'll be like, let's see what Liev Schreiber does with this. Because nothing against him. I just think the whole idea of the movie and, actors got to eat.
Yeah. Or if we ever have another movie weekend again and I'm just there and, we've got some Wendy's or something and we're just like, you know what, let's just have something on while we eat.
Sure.
I'm down.
But yeah, I succeed outside of these videos being negative. It's where my energy goes to. It's what I'm good at. But the challenge of doing these with you is finding the energy to talk nice about things. When it comes to this, I don't feel like me trash talking the remake that I've never seen. I always feel a little bad because for several months, people got up to work every day, not just actors but crew. All these people paid rent and fed their families by doing this. So, but on the other hand, fuck you! Don't remake The Omen. How about that?
I feel like I can already see your expression as the credits roll on the movie. It'll just be a kind of like, yeah, I knew it.
Yeah,
and a shrug. Suck. Yeah,
that was bad. I know.
Yeah, I mean, because people can still work hard on something that ultimately is not that good. But But I think at least you include them in your thoughts. Like I think that's a higher a higher way of watching these movies. So good for you, John Carlos. So The Omen.
Speaking of The Omen, yeah, the original. I had quite literally the best time I've ever had watching this movie, watching it this time.
And why is that?
I love the idea that, when you get old, like for example, for the longest time, for the first 4 times I saw The Exorcist, it got scarier each time I saw it. From when I was 18 to when I was 20 to when I was like 29, then when I was like 33, like it just, some movies, yeah, it's not just that they get better or worse, but also pending on what's going on that time of day or that week it doesn't just always get better. It might actually, you might not be in the mood that day. And then what happened was I saw The Omen once, loved it, bought it, saw it again, loved it, saw it again. I saw it about 2 years ago, but I saw it in like a movie marathon, and the movies that it followed, I think Evil Dead 2 was in there and something else is in there, but it wasn't the right fit for the proceedings. If I was making a mixtape, I would not have used that song to follow that other song. And it just didn't play for me. And I'm like, oh my God, am I not liking The Omen anymore? Because I fucking really like The Omen, but like I'm not feeling it tonight. So I was actually a little nervous about watching it again because I didn't know if that was indicative of just one screening or if that's indicative of a projection that it's going on. And instead, it was the most I've ever liked it, even more than the first and second time. It just, everything just hit. The last time, like I think following like Evil Dead 2 and stuff, it definitely the energy didn't work. But for me,
I can see that.
yeah. Also, it's weird because I don't want to talk about its pedigree as either a good fit, like a high ranking, or as an insult. But like, it's weird because it doesn't feel highbrow horror the way
Mm.
Rosemary's Baby or Hereditary or stuff would feel, and it doesn't feel schlocky either. It's definitely an American director. It's an American studio.
Mhm.
Um, so I've always kind of find it kind of a mid-ground movie. And the
Hmm.
last time I saw it, it really just sort of felt like when you see something as zanily directed or as balls to the wall directed as an Evil Dead 2,
Mhm.
it felt tepid and pedestrian the last time I saw it in a way that like I never noticed before.
By
Whereas this
comparison,
time,
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
but this time with a completely empty palette, I found it to be a intelligent and handsomely produced production with really smart choices. Um, one of the things I really like about this movie is that it is both elegant and smart, and also kind of dirty and cheap at the same times. There's
Okay.
something about there's especially like even in the beginning, which is like getting to the hospital. There's a lot of like handheld, and some of the photography is a little grimy. It
Mhm.
feels a little dirty and sloppy in a good way. In that
Mm.
and then at other times, sometimes the compositions are very quiet, very smart, and the close-ups and the editing is very precise. And to me, it hits the best of both.
Mm.
And in a weird way, that's why it kind of hits me as a middle ground kind of movie because it isn't as extreme as some of these like they're trying to get by with the tiniest budget to make these
Mm.
choices, and they're also not some pedigree. It's I don't know. It's like it's almost like the perfect studio horror movie in a weird way.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. I think also just like the fact that like I can't watch particularly the first one without the names in my head, like Gregory Peck, Lee Remick, and even Richard Donner and Jerry Goldsmith. I mean, I'm they're with me. I feel like they're almost kind of like walking with me through the movie. I agree. It is absolutely a studio film. It feels like a studio film, but as far as the whole highbrow thing and everything like that, I mean, I guess anything I could say that would support that, I feel like I would immediately negate. I would immediately be like, I mean, I guess I can kind of see that because it's not really that violent. But then, I mean, when the violence hits, it is so, for me, it is very impactful. It's like, the way what I love, the thing that I love about it is how unconventional it is in terms of just like kind of like the flat line. Like there's just a very, very base level that it establishes and kind of maintains for a long time. And then all of a sudden, cymbal crash,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then back to the until knock the books off the, knock the bookcase off the floor and they're all on top of you. Oh my God, ow. And then it's just quiet again. It's just just like boop. I mean, and I appreciate that. I don't appreciate it when I'm like I would never encourage anybody who's living with someone who is asleep and they want to watch this movie to do that because the sound design is such that like very, very quiet, very, very quiet. So you have to play it very, very loud in order to hear it. Then all of a sudden the soundtrack comes crashing down on you or the sound effects come like crashing down on you. So there's that. Keep
I
that.
actually noticed
Anybody?
that. I
Yeah.
noticed that considerably in two. So like two is very consistent with one in that respect.
Oh, I notice it in every single one of them. But it's um, what was I going to say? Oh, but the thing is that one of the things that it came across to me today because I know I was going to be talking about it while I was watching it, rewatching. Every single one of these movies, I realized, like, yeah, I really like these, and I love that they exist. I love that they're in my home, and I love that I can watch them whenever I want. And this is rare with a movie that I like. Well, maybe it's not that rare. You know me, but
Yeah.
I really like it, and I would never call that into question. That said, I don't think I would recommend it for everybody. feel like there are people who would probably be bored by it, and it's like, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with you coming and like shitting on my baby and telling me that you think it's too slow or that it's not interesting enough or that there aren't enough further like you know. I feel like
yeah.
if yeah, I mean, I'm really really glad your first time seeing it wasn't on the heels of Evil Dead 2, because then I'd just be
Yeah.
kind of like, oh no, oh my god, that was a mistake. You never should have done that.
Yeah, no, I saw one in a complete vacuum of it on its own. I saw it between the ages of like 18 and 20, and I was alone by myself at like 1 a.m. It was sublime.
Yeah. But yeah, go ahead.
And also, I didn't know what to expect because it's Dick Donner who, I mean, I say this as a good thing, but like, much like the Coen brothers, you know, he doesn't really stick to a single genre. You know, the Big Lebowski versus, you know, Raising Arizona versus The Man Who Wasn't There, like the genres are everywhere. And very few people can I look at and go like, wow, Superman, The Omen, The Goonies, Lethal Weapon. Like, what the fuck? Action, kids movie, you know, comedy, sci-fi, superhero, horror, like what the fuck? But there's always like a assured, there's this sort of measured, straightforward confidence to like all of his work. And actually, one thing that really took me aback in the first maybe 2 or 3 minutes of this movie is how much, because his very next movie after this was Superman, and both of them have similar visual sensibilities, especially exteriors in Metropolis. And I had to look up, like, oh my God, did you use the same DP for Superman? No, he didn't. But could have fooled me. Because they both kind of use the same visual language. And I think there's got to be something consistent than just, you know, because some directors really partner with their DP because they know exactly what they want. Other time it can be more suggestive. And I think it might be a case of he's not just taking ideas from a DP on how to frame a shot, but I think he knows the way he wants to tell a story visually. Because even with different DPs, there is a continuity between this to Superman.
Yes.
To a certain degree, from Superman to Goonies and Lethal Weapon,
sure.
That surprised me. Although it is neat to know that the DP of this did the Omen 2. And there is a very like 90% similar look to that.
I agree to that. Yeah, totally.
But I think I saw the interview with him a while ago. I didn't really dive into bonus features for this one too much for this viewing, but I can't remember if this is his first feature or if he directed some other cheesy stuff, but like this was his first like movie, like real movie. And could have fooled me I would have expected like a seasoned veteran directed this. There are so many this isn't always the case, but I'm always impressed when you can get me locked in to just cutting between 2 close-ups of people talking. It's one of the most boring things in the world is just over the shoulder 2 shots. And especially if you can hook me with the silence. And and half of it's casting, but Gregory Peck, you put a camera on Gregory Peck and have him just fill half the frame and just watch him listen. He doesn't have to be saying anything yet. It's not even his line. And I am glued to the movie.
I love that you brought that up, because one of my favorite things about Gregory Peck I was thinking about while I was watching it, because like I said, Gregory Peck, it's in my head the whole time. I mean, I know I'm watching Robert Thorne, but it's it's Gregory fucking Peck. And I know for a lot of people, like, you know, who say like, you know, like my number one Gregory Peck performance, and they're going to say To Kill a Mockingbird, which totally makes sense. I won't argue with people about that, but I get it. But for me, I'm afraid I'm not going to say the one you're thinking.
It's fine. But
for me, Roman Holiday.
No, it's really good.
Yeah, but
it's really good
for the reason that you just stated. Because one of my favorite things that he does in that movie, very very last scene, he's sitting there, and we'll get back to Omen in a second. Audrey Hepburn is doing her final speech and everything like that, and all he's doing is standing there and watching her deliver this speech, fully grown and relieved that she knows they're not going to take advantage of her. Anyway, I'm not going to get into the thing, but he's just listening. He's just glowing. he is beaming, he is welling up just watching. And when you watch it in HD, oh my God, it's like you're right there next to his face, and who wouldn't want to be? But yeah, it's at a time where I think a lot of actors were being encouraged to, to play their parts and everything like that. He was an exception, I think, especially in Hollywood, in terms of like just kind of like doing as, and I mean this as a compliment, doing as little as possible, like basically just trying to do nothing and just trying to exist and let whatever needs to exist for the scene be there. And I feel like he does that for this too. I mean, it's not like a muscle of a performance. It's just a man living his life. And I'm especially fond, since we were talking about Richard Donner, I love the fact that both he and Lee Remick were directed to play this as though this could never happen, as though our child is not the devil. I mean,
Right.
it's crazy. Why would I ever think that? Why would I ever suspect that? You're just going through something. You're there's all of these things, and it couldn't possibly be the case. There's all of these arrows pointing to the runway of like, your child is the son of the devil, and it's like, but I mean, I can't think that way, and I love
which
how
is
plausible the world is. Yeah,
which is something to me that is severely lacking in the sequels, but we'll get to that.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, but that
yeah.
is something that hit me like a ton of bricks in watching the sequels, is how present that is in this movie, even though because I remember there's an interview with Dick Donner where he talks about, like, because I maintain when I watch this, there's no doubt, like, he's the son of the devil. We know more than the characters do, our leads, and we're slowly watching them catch up to the truth. But I remember this interview with Dick Donner where he talks about, and I remember being upset about it at the time, and I think now I understand he's talking more about the way he directed the characters, but like the idea that like, well, no, this is just all, it's just coincidence, right? Like it's a mystery. It's not actually, these people that come to say, oh, he's the son of the devil. Like, no, we never see the mom get thrown out of the hospital window. From their point of view, sure, a pole just lands through a priest, but what are the odds that, like, then you go to Megiddo and then a glass. These are all coincidences upon coincidences, but there isn't. Sure, you're directing those two lead parent actors for that.
Yes.
But when I watch the movie is not positing that. The movie is pretty much
yes
unzipping and going, he's the devil.
Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah. And but I also, there've been plenty of movies where that's a mystery. And, I remember the first time watching Rosemary's Baby, and, you're kind of with her going like, well, is this a paranoia that's due to my hormones? And there's plenty of times where you wonder, or could it? But this movie's like, no. You're waiting for them to catch up. That's what we're doing.
Right. I also, can I tell you one thing that totally jumped out at me this time that has never jumped out? I don't know how many times I've seen this movie. It's numerous, beyond counting. But for the first time, it jumped out at me. I always got pissed off at the, like, let's not let the wife in, on what's going on. Like here, oh, she's suffered a tragic miscarriage. Well, she couldn't possibly handle that psychologically, so let's lie to her.
Typical patriarchal bullshit.
Yeah, switch this up. Very old world. Like, I mean, even like the pairing, even though I love watching Gregory Peck and Lee Remick work with each other, the pairing of them, I'm just kind of like, he is so much older than her. Like, she could be playing his daughter, but it's old Hollywood. Like, there is something about the whole mentality of even just their pairing that feels like a bygone era, and therefore also maybe more prone to denial when the truth is staring you in the face, just because that's the way people rolled. It's like, we can't deal with that. We just have to keep on going. I don't know why, but those are the rules. It's how I was raised. And not how I was raised.
Yeah.
But but the thing that jumped out at me the most, beyond just kind of like this horrible elimination of his wife from any kind of decision making,
right, of
or
any
any agent
choice.
or any position of agency whatsoever.
Yeah.
And she felt it. I mean, like he had so many moments where he could have told her. I always get angry about that. The thing that jumped out at me this time, I never put it together. The parallel. I think I'm just too like, oh my God, she lost the baby, and she's just thinking, don't let the baby kill me. Don't let Damien kill me. What jumped out at me was the doctor's line after Robert shows up and he starts asking questions, and the doctor says, she's still alive, and with proper care, she can still have children. And all that came to me was, this was exactly what you were trying to avoid the first time. And she's even worse off this time because she's not even thinking about the baby she lost. She's thinking, don't let Damien kill me. So basically everything that Robert Thorne did from from that point and everything before was for nothing. Basically.
Yeah.
She survived. She can have another kid. She survived the fall. Because I was wondering, because I forgot about the pregnancy that just in the movie while I was watching, I was just kind of like, so wait, can she not have another kid? Like, I mean, these men are talking about like, oh, it'll crush her. She'll never be able to recover. And it's like, well, I mean, it happens, and women do. I'm not saying it's like, but
right.
There's other avenues we can take other than just like, she must never know. Here, take this child. But don't ask any questions.
To your wife.
Exactly, for the rest of your lives. And if she senses something is off, never tell her. I mean, she went to her grave not knowing the truth. So,
yeah.
But still, she knew enough to, but
yeah.
But anyway, so that was the first thing that jumped out at me, was just like, oh my God, like I wrote down, it was foretold the pregnancy would be terminated, and Robert still doesn't want an abortion because why? And I just wrote, he does work for Washington, doesn't he? And
the whole movie is an allegory for old white politicians controlling women's uteruses. Holy shit.
And everything else, just kind of like, I know what's best because, that's it. But yeah, was there anything that jumped out at you in particular that was even especially more fun at this point?
No, actually, the only thing that never stuck with me before, and it's not like a great sticking point, but I always go, was this time when the priest comes up to him, like the first time, and he's like, you've got to accept Christ. You've got to drink his blood and eat his body. That's the only way to defeat him. And then as the movie keeps going, I'm like, I wonder if only you'd accepted Christ. Like, what if he's like, what if he believed him? And then like, fuck it, got baptized, first communion.
Mm-hmm.
And like, none of this shit happens. It's like, hey, I got the power of Christ flowing through me, motherfucker. And he like, this whole movie doesn't happen. If only. Because I don't know, it can't be as easy as that. Like, you have to believe it. But like,
well, I
have to wonder because, like, he's saying that's the only way to defeat him, and then later, fucking, I always forget his goofy ass name. I got it written in here. Bugenhagen. Bugenhagen's like, actually,
Bugenhagen.
These knives are the only way to kill him. I'm like, all right, so fuck it, it's the knives. But yeah, so clearly, is that foreshadow, because he doesn't accept Christ and then he fails and doesn't do the thing. So
I mean, but does he?
Well, he gets shot and Damien lives, so he does not succeed.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm
saying. So he doesn't accept him. So I'm like, all I can say is like, I was raised Catholic, total respect for it, but it's not my thing. I don't like the term lapsed Catholic, so I call myself a Catholic in recovery, kind of like, an alcoholic or something, because there's a lot of damage been done. But my old school, like, suspicion, shall we say, or what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe it is suspicion, or I don't know, superstition. That's what I'm looking for. My old school superstition just kind of like kicks in, because the second I see the priest like going, "You must drink his blood, you must accept it," I'm just kind of like, dude, do what the priest says. He knows what he's talking about. dude.
No.
It's like when I watched the old school 1931 Dracula with Bela Lugosi, and I just kind of watched like the gypsies handing Renfield like, you know, the cross, and just saying like, keep this close to your heart and everything. It doesn't scare me actually as much as when I watch the Spanish version and I see a bunch of old Mexican ladies like passing across, because I'm like, okay, if I had an old Mexican lady telling me where you're going, there's trouble, keep this close to your heart, and she handed me a crucifix, I would hold on to it. I would wear it. I would be praying
Yeah.
the whole time, because I'd be like, I trust those old Mexican ladies. The same
Yeah.
way I trust this old Italian priest.
Well, I mean, in that case, you're talking about like a monster that has very specific rules, right? Whereas with
Yeah.
this, feels a little more grounded in reality and within
Right.
the confines of the story. Are we talking, we're not talking about, I mean, I'm not going to get into whether, you think Jesus and the devil are fictional or not, but within this movie, they're not, they're real. Right. And Dracula's fucking fake. And so you want him to kind of follow that guy a little more, but it's harder because you're talking about real values, real, beliefs. So, but yeah, there's that part of me that goes, just as the viewer, especially as someone who, again, not Catholic anymore, it's very easier for me to just go, but that guy knows the truth. That guy knows what's up. Fucking listen to him.
Right.
But the problem is,
also, you're a horror fan. You're a horror fan too.
Yeah, but I wonder, can you, even if you believed him, you're like, so I just drink this wine for, and now I'm good, and now. And now I can defeat the devil's son. Like,
that's the conversation you need to have.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
One thing that I can't not bring this up in this is, even though the gore in this movie is minimal, it is not. There are plenty of movies that have great kill counts and great deaths and great effects, on-set special effects. This is not one of them. And yet, even though it's not one of them, it has a standout. It has one of the best decapitations ever put on film. First time I ever saw it, I leaned forward and like screamed in joy. Like I rewound it. It was one of the gnarliest things I'd seen in a while. And there's not even like blood shooting out. It's just so well staged. The rotation of the head, the look on his face, that surprised look. It plops next to his body. That woman goes, ah! Like, it is expertly done. A decapitation for the ages. And in the middle of, again, there's so many horror movies that are produced independently or produced by like subdivisions of production companies. Yeah. But very rarely does like a movie not made by like, let's say Legendary, which is a studio set up at Universal or something, but like just a pure Hollywood studio. Fox made a movie. A Hollywood studio made a movie that has one of the best decapitations ever. You don't see that a lot.
No, actually, my favorite kill is probably the first one we witnessed with the "It's all for you."
It's so good. I mean, as good as horror fans, yes, we can say it's so good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. But I mean,
so
I think it's also because creepy. Because also everything that leads up to it. Holly didn't go there that day intending to do that. There's a dog. Cute little puppy. There's a puppy off, yeah, exactly. Who just kind of like looks at her and she's just going to, now I know. And also I think it's the fact that she's so happy. And then it's also, of course, anything contrasted with like a children's birthday party, particularly at that like mommy dearest scale that they have. Yeah.
The entire scene leading up to it of just the Billy Madison party level carnival shenanigans of it all.
Yeah.
Close-ups of Damien on the little Ferris wheel. Like, everything's great. Everything's awesome.
But the fact that she's just like, look at me, Damien. I mean, it goes into like an invasive space with me where I'm just kind of like, there are children witnessing this. I think I've said it before on this pod. I love, as an audience member, seeing children in peril. Like, as long as it's fake. I don't like it real, because sometimes we'll get there, but there are times where things get a little too real and I have to just murmur to myself, it's just a movie. It's just a movie. And but this isn't one of them, but it is the first, because it never, I'm not used to that moment yet. I can't watch it and just like, I'm always like, oh,
every time.
And also maybe it's also Lee Remick's like horrified giant eyes, like as she's clutching him, just like watching it. I mean, it's everything. It is, and watching the body swing and hearing the scream as she crashes through the window on the floor below her. It is, and David Warner with his camera taking photos of the whole thing. It's just so much is happening, and that's my favorite kill.
That movie is, I mean, that moment is full of, like, sometimes there'll be like a 1-2, it's full of these, like, what I call micro punches. And it's like, you know what I mean? Within a span of like 30 seconds, we start with the crowd and everything, and you hear her.
Yes.
And that already is eerie. And then the sheer joy in her voice that look at me, Damien, like the look at me is creepy enough.
Yeah.
And you, especially the first time, aren't much like people like, what the fuck, why is like, we don't know what exactly is happening yet. And then also I don't really have like a favorite hanging in a movie, but it's one of my favorites in that, like, there's so many where, like, you know, the body falls over, but this is one of the few where, like, I get the sense of the weight of the hit, and then the fact that you get the glass break, and there's someone inside the room going like, ah, like that scream, that poor person, just like body.
I know, right? Who was expecting that?
Yeah. But I'll never get over that smile on her face.
No.
Out. But yeah, it only took 1 or 2 viewings for that to instantly be in my like vernacular. Like if I see someone like up on a ledge, I just go, oh, it's all for you, Damien. Like, look at me. I'm like, Damien, is all for you. Like, but it's all for you or if, you know, if I'm up on like the top of a high thing, I'm like, that's all for you.
No, don't ever do that to me. Don't ever.
Okay.
Oh God.
You know, if I ever see a corner, it's fun to stand in it, Blair Witch style. If I'm ever up on a high ledge, it's fun to yell out, it's all for you.
I think I could take the Blair Witch thing, even though, well, I don't know if it's the wrong hour of the night. Like if it's like, you know, midnight or after, that's probably going to be like, I'll be like, stop it, okay. But
yeah, you ever just see like, you know, like the old West Stunt Show, and there's like the guy on the 3rd floor of the saloon. I'm like, oh, it's all for you, Damien. Like, it just, I don't know, it's just something that movie has forever ruined people.
No, oh my God, no. And also that the thing is, I think it's also just like the fact that like it's kind of a mysterious thing she's saying, because it's not something that like everybody at the party is going to get. You know, you do, like people are watching it, they're like, what the fuck does she mean? She's talking like a crazy person.
I
like,
didn't get it the first.
Yeah.
I swear to God, the first 2 times I saw it, I just thought it was weird, satanic-y shit that was happening.
Yeah.
It wasn't until like my 3rd or 4th viewing where I realized that like the dog commanded her to do it or convinced her, whatever, for the purpose of freeing up her job, because this is part of the plan. And she's now happy to be fulfilling this part of Damien's ascension plan. But to me, that was fine, but it almost worked better when I didn't understand what the fuck, and it was just weird shit because that's just creepier to me. What do you mean it's all for you, Damien, and you're smiling? What the fuck? Ah! Like that is weird and creepy.
But I think it also still works with me just because of the audience. Like if she just did it for Damien and Damien was the only one who saw it, I mean, that actually might still be kind of fucked up too. But the fact that there's like an entire party of children, like, you know, you have taken these children into your care, you know, for the afternoon. Their parents are probably off drinking somewhere, you know, maybe they're at the party, but they're like on the terrace drinking, or like in the mini bar, you know, and there's no mini bar in that place. It's a castle. So they're at the bar and they're all just, or they're off doing their own thing, and they're going to come back and their children's going to be like, you know, or just catatonic. I don't know, but that isn't. It is my favorite kill, but it is not my favorite moment. My favorite moment of the movie, because I do laugh, is the drive to the wedding.
As they get closer and closer to the church, and he's like, nah.
When it's little Damien, little 5-year-old Damien's just sitting there. He just. and I just love it because it's so relaxed. I totally buy that they're just riding to church, and she's like, "What's the matter, Damien?" He just looks back and I'm like, like what you like, and everything. That child. This is one of those things where it's like Dick Donner getting that performance from that child, because the child is not an actor, you know? So whatever it is he's telling this kid before they yell action to get him to make those faces, it's so, I mean, and even when he like sits next to them and he's not moving, but she's going on about like how much he's trembling all over and everything.
Oh
So I'm
yeah.
like, oh my God, like, so he's doing like some real, I mean, and he may not be trembling, the actor may not be, but in my head, I'm thinking like, so this Damien, the character, must be doing some like serious shivering, like where, you know, like your knees are knocking, but when your knees knock, they don't, you know,
No,
like
I figure he's
when
like
we're
vibrating.
scared,
That,
it's
that,
like,
that kind
it's,
of shiver.
yeah, when it is so much scarier to watch somebody, you know, like quiver
Yes.
as opposed to
Yeah.
come in, you know, or whatever. So imagining that that's all going on beneath his little, you know, his little suit as he's just sitting there, just like staring, just regarding the place and seeing like the statue and seeing the cross and seeing, I find it's almost like, I don't know, I can't even explain why I laugh. I just enjoy the fuck out of that scene. Yeah, so there's that.
In a similar way, I appreciate the last scene. And honestly, I can't remember how much, if at all, Damien speaks in this movie. Like,
yeah, he does.
Yeah, very little. You know, but he's
Yeah.
on his little tricycle, not saying much. You know, he definitely doesn't want to go to the church, but you know, he's not. I think he acknowledges like, here I am when they lose him along the river, right? But like, he's not. He's
Oh
not.
God.
He's not speaking a lot in this movie, but and maybe it's been a while since. But I remember it just shot. It's. I always chuckle when he's about to fucking no, daddy, please, no, please, daddy, no. Like it's just so like it's
daddy, no.
No, but you know, and any depiction of like you see it like with especially like Evil Dead movies and people are possessed and then they turn back to like the normal form and they're like, please don't kill me. I'm your aunt. I'm your husband. I love you. That sort of thing. But it's the oldest trick in the book. And it's being done by a kid. And it just feels so full of shit to me. Like, no, daddy, no.
Yes.
I'm a little boy. Please, daddy, no.
I was just watching a couple weeks ago. Spoilers for Get Out if you haven't seen it yet. Sorry, folks. I won't give a spoiler. I'll just say Rose, when in the last moment she does something similar where she's just going, I love you. I love you. And I'm like, bitch, this isn't gonna play. And I love that, I love that Damien's with it. But I also, what I love about it is he's so clearly got a foppish, you know, a posh little British accent. And he actually, I think all of his lines have the word daddy in them. Because I wrote down two of the other ones. Like there's one where it's at the birthday party before everything's wrong, where Gregory Peck is like holding him upside down. He's like, let me down, daddy. And then there's another point, I think it's when he's making all the noise, I think. And she's just sitting there just like, you know, Mrs. Baylock, could you cut Damien to please stop? You know, like whatever she's doing. But there's one moment, and then in walks Gregory Peck, and he's just like, good morning, Diddy. And it's always in that little, you know, the tiny little British baby, Diddy, oh, Diddy, did go, Diddy, did go. I just fucking love it. Yeah, I can't get enough of it.
You're making him sound like a little James Mason. I don't know if you meant to, but you totally are.
Sorry, Diddy, I was off my tit. That's what he should have said when Gregory Peck was going there with the dagger of I wrote it down. I never remember the name. The dagger of Megiddo. Yeah. He's just been like, Daddy, I was off my tit. I'm sorry. I've got to grow up and become James Mason. James Mason would have made a great Damien.
He would have.
Like,
I was actually just thinking about that.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. I know he played a ghost in Forever Darling, but I don't know if he ever played the devil. But anyway.
He played a fucking perv in Lolita.
Yes, there's that. Actually, that's close enough.
Yeah. I think one other thing that has to just attention must be paid is the score.
Jerry Goldsmith. God.
The superb score, which First of all,
whatever.
just the opening, the general, if you want to call it a theme, the main theme, and the choir, on its own is superb. And I feel like over the years, at least in the beginning, that's all I really kind of acknowledged when I watched it. But the last several viewings I've had, I really allowed the rest of the score to like wash over me, or at least allowed myself to really appreciate other bits. Because it's you know, I'm not a musical expert. I have friends that like are musical theorists and they know things and went to school for it. I'm just a fucking schmuck. I'm a guy. John Williams and Danny Elfman are great, and you know, yay. But
Yes.
there's so many smart choices in this beyond just the ominous theme. When they first kind of move into the house in London and he's doing his little flirty flirt, we should go upstairs, and they kind of embrace, and the music sweeps and it's romantic. It dissolves to them walking along the banks, and I'm like, you are giving me all. When it comes to the kind of score, sometimes that you know, they say the great score are the ones that like you don't notice, but I say, you know, I don't think there should be rules. Sometimes that rule applies, sometimes no. I very much noticed the score to fucking Batman by Danny Elfman, and it soars because I notice it. There's nothing wrong with music telling you how to feel if the movie, if the other elements are there. It's when your actors are failing, when your direction's failing, and now the music has to tell you how to feel. That's the problem.
Sure. Yes.
In this case, though, that music is just highlighting everything that's happening on the screen.
Yeah, the idealism. Yeah.
Yes, and the way it's photographed, the way it's acted, and then the way it's scored. But to have so many different, kind of like Dick Donner's career, the score goes in so many different directions, and they're all pure, and they're all correct, and they're all true. The scene where they're attacked at the zoo by the baboons, that score is so intense. And then when Gregory Peck is like coming into the house towards the end to get Damien, and all you hear is this quiet little fucking choir, no music, no instruments, just creepy fucking choir. I'm on the edge of my goddamn seat because of that. Compared to the walk along the riverbank, compared to the baboon attack, compared to when the fucking nanny attacks him in the house. I don't consider The Omen to be scary. I just think it's a good horror movie. But for about a minute, when she attacks him in the kitchen, I am actually scared. And I'd say 50% of it is because of the score alone. Because it's not a very well staged attack, and it's actually
a
few
she
parts
just
of the movie
on his
that's
back.
and it's kind of 50% of it is the score, because that score makes that scene. If you go back and watch it again, and maybe like just trying to turn the audio off, and you might notice that like little people rolling around on the floor. And then the other half, and I don't know the actress's name, but that the satanic nanny.
Yeah, Mrs. Baylock. I know her name, but I can't remember it right now, and I didn't write it down. She's wonderful.
She is truly scary in that scene, though, because there's a physical intensity to the physicality is very vicious, but also how far she's driven in that moment. Her face, her teeth. It's not just she's pulling an intense face. It's I could see. I'm afraid of what that face is telling me, not just the severe, but I mean, it is adrenaline. It is her up to 110, and I don't like where her head is at, and like that shit is scary to me in a way that nothing else in this movie is as scary as her. That's an attack I wouldn't want to be involved in. I don't want that fucking none of that. That shit's good.
Yeah. And just piggybacking on what you were discussing about the score, the thing that stood out to me the most this particular sitting that I didn't really notice before, because of course I feel like I don't know the words and I never will, but I can do that. I mean, it follows, you know, us throughout all these movies, and I love it. I didn't, because I know it, at least the rhythm of it so well, I noticed in the very, very, very beginning, it's played just on a piano. It's just like these lone keys going boom, 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 but not even in the same cadence. It's almost like, you know, it almost, I wouldn't say sweet sounding, but it's just a piano, and they're just notes. And over the course of the movie, those notes are going to become invasive and become, oppressive. So that was something I was very, very grateful to notice this time around. One thing I wanted to ask you. Okay. I have never, as a Catholic, I've never been able to wrap my head around the devil's power. Like, what's his skill set? Because I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, so we've got like the inverse of the Holy Trinity. They even called it the diabolical Trinity, where we've got the devil, the Antichrist, and the false prophet to go up against the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost and everything like that. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around the Holy Ghost. I never really understood that either. But it's so if the devil is kind of like the stand-in for, as far as that, I guess, quasi-religion, whatever it is, that organization, that group, if the devil is like the equivalent of God and Damien is like the equivalent of Christ, then what can the devil do? Like, because I thought he was just a fallen angel. Do angels have powers? And is he able to like manipulate things in a way to like cause people to die? Like, I've never understood, on maybe on a comic book level, like what his powers are.
Well,
So I was trying to make sense of it while I was watching the movie, and I just could not. I didn't understand what are the devil's limits and what can he do? And we never got that.
No, I've never understood it in real life.
Right.
As far as, one could say real, but
Sure.
and I've never, and when it comes to movies in general, it's kind of like when you make a zombie movie, or especially when you make a vampire movie.
Yeah.
Each movie kind of sets its own rules as to like,
Right.
well, in this movie, Silver kills it, but in those other movies, Silver doesn't kill it, and blah blah blah.
Right.
Oh, garlic and holy water, that's just from the movies, and
Right.
So I mean, within this movie, especially within this franchise, especially when you get into the sequels, like,
Yeah.
what? Yeah. I mean, let's just talk about this first one. Like, so there's I just call them the hellhounds.
Right.
Can look at you and get you to do whatever, which is usually go fucking kill yourself for whatever reason. It's like the kill yourself dog. But also like, right. Jesus is the Son of God, but Jesus is also God. Huh? But like,
exactly. Right.
But so the Antichrist is the devil on earth, but is he the son of the devil, or is he? And then especially in the third movie, if you're talking about what are Satan's powers, like in the third movie, like when he's talking to the crowd, I think he refers to like the true God, like Satan is God. It's like, well, no, Satan's just a fallen angel, but now he's so much more than that. Like his kingdom is going to be great, and like, well, I guess, like, I don't, whatever. So like, yeah, how much of his presence? I mean, the impression I get watching the first movie when the priest gets killed is that like the winds are coming, and he goes to the church.
Yes.
It's like, oh, you're fucking with the plan. Like you're trying to get this guy.
Right.
The devil's got a plan for this kid, and I need to get involved now. But like, well, why don't you get involved other times? I don't understand. I guess the priest is the first time someone's really potentially going to fuck shit up. Then, the nanny already has her own agenda when she tries to kill the mom. Damien has his own kind of agenda when he tries, because they say like first they're going to go after your kid, then they're going to go after you. And sure enough, Damien gets you to fall over. Baby gets terminated. Then the nanny tries to kill them. So that's not the devil specifically. Like they are agents of him. How much are they under his influence? Who the fuck knows?
Right.
But clearly the glass going after David Warner, that's only like really only two times then, right? That's it in the first movie. The second fucking movie though, holy jeebus. But yeah, the devil doesn't get that involved so much as just, the nanny's a little weird. Ooh, another dog. The dog's protecting the kid. Ooh, I don't like this. Ooh,
right.
Like, I don't know. It's very unclear, and it actually just gets more unclear as the franchise continues.
Well, I was just wondering because I think it's also looking at a movie that was released in 1976 with 2021 eyes, It's like I'm used, comic book movies are the norm, and we want to know, like, okay, what are your powers and what aren't your powers, and if we aren't, then we blog about it incessantly. And by we, I don't mean me, but the only other thing I really wanted to address with this movie is the thing that scares me the most about it has nothing to do, and I think there's one of these for every one of the movies. The thing that scares me most in this movie is just when they go to that Italian hospital, Keith and Robert, and they're talking to the nun/nurse, and and there's that elevator that just perpetually goes forever.
I'd be terrified. I'd lose a limb.
And she like steps
scrape
on
my shoulder
it and just totally calm. And all I can think is my skin could get caught in it. What if something is dangling off of you, or the fabric from your habit, or not habit, but whatever she's wearing, her head
clip your shoe.
Yeah. What if you fall over, but you fall over like inside while it's still going, and you're like dragging your way? I mean, I was like, why did we miss an opportunity for a death in that? Because it is a death trap. It's terrible. And every time I watch it, I can't. I'm concentrating on the scene, but it's like, it's kind of like having a conversation with someone while your kid is trying to like balance on like a fence or something, and you're just kind of keeping an eye on them, waiting for them to fall down and split their head open. That's what it's like watching that scene for me, and it terrifies me. It makes me so, even though I'm talking about it, I can feel like my blood boiling. I mean, not even boiling, but it's just like curdling. Like it's just like I have
three thoughts when I watched that moment. And you just said one of them, which is like, what if you like any part of you gets caught or clipped?
Yeah.
My second thought, what if, because it's a single cell for a person. What if the elevator breaks and you're in between floors?
Ooh!
And because it's not a room anymore. It's just a nugget of a space, and I would cry.
Yeah.
And then my third thought, because it's just like, okay, and she and then just goes. I always think of like when the penguin's like, I saw her first. Gotta fly. It's such a simple little lift. It's just, I know he's not like on a platform, but just his lift, and I think she grabs the handle and just.
The other, but also maybe I just have too practical a mind for this. I shouldn't watch movies anymore. But there's another thing I was thinking. What happens when it reaches the top?
It's like
but the thing next to it, it's like right next to it. It's like right. So how does it?
But they're going like this,
like upside down. How does it have room to loop like that?
It does. I don't know. They're bracketed, and they.
I need to see a blueprint. I need the complex inner workings of the device, because it's going to keep me up tonight. Okay, I'll Google it. I'll look it up.
I only have two tiny little things to say left that are worth acknowledging. One, it's one of the few movies I've ever seen that, as far as I could tell, like the opening title card features like a poster, or like it essentially has a graphic of like the shadow of the crucifix, and I'm like, there's not many movies that like have their own poster in the title. Yeah. This is interesting, huh? Never really noticed that before, but I thought that was interesting. And then I can't get even the previous time I saw it, where I didn't really get much out of it. The thing that always stands out to me with this movie, and it stood out even that time, is it's nothing special, but just that when they go to the Italian graveyard, I fucking love that set. Like, say what you want about the movie. And there's so many older movies that it's so clearly on a soundstage, and I don't say that as an insult. The backdrop of the cloudy sky, but these fucking trees and the low and then these hills with the little doors set in. For like 5 pure minutes, it just feels like an old Hollywood horror movie. And these two men breaking into a spooky graveyard to get to the truth, and it's just. I would have, even just to be, the guy who brings you coffee on that set for that day. You know, if we're on a break, I'm just playing on that set for hours.
You're doing like reenacting Plan 9 from outer space,
Yeah.
crawling out of crypts and shit.
Yeah, it's an Italian zombie movie for me. It's what a fucking great. I love that set. The Omen is not my favorite horror movie. It's a great movie, but like it's not like my favorite. But that 5 minutes is like some of my favorite horror movie 5 minutes, just for the atmosphere, the sound design, the set design, the dogs, all that shit. Love the graveyard sequence.
And again, Gregory Peck fucking selling the shit just like the way he talks about, like, why would they bring them to this place? You know, I'm just like, yeah, that's a super gloomy place, bro. And then later, like when he's, I love the fact that also they do.
I want to see the version of the movie where you have David Warner's part. Yeah, why would they bring him here, bro? This is a super gloomy place.
He's just like, what is this, bro? I couldn't derail Gregory Peck if I tried.
Yeah, he furrows those magnificent brows and looks at you.
Oh my God, I would just be kind of like, yes, sir. It would be a totally different context where Keith Jennings is just in love with Robert Thorne. But no, but the other thing that I love about it is one of my favorite things about the movie. It doesn't really go anywhere, but it kind of explains. Rather than just him having like a morbid curiosity to like open up the tomb and look inside after they see the jackal, I like the fact that they also back it up. I always loved this as a kid too. He said like, but what if there's an animal inside here too? And that could mean my child is still alive. And I'm like, oh kid, that's terrible. And yeah, I would totally look. If that were the case and it were me, like good setting up motive and good. I mean, everything about that scene. Oh, and the fucking when he's on the gate. Oh, grisly. And it's so simple. It's not this. It's this movie isn't a gore fest, but I feel like everything that they want lands. And I also just to go back to the puppies, because it's going to come up again. But it just made me wonder, like, what are minions of Satan? Like, what other animals could conceivably be? And I remembered what was coming in the second one. I was like, do they do another one in the third one? I can't remember. So I watched with that eye, going just kind of like, what other animals can Satan have dominion over? And I was disappointed to see that it wasn't as many. I don't know. It just food for thought. Like, what other animal would you like not be surprised could have like some kind of like satanic linkage or at least be swayed?
First movie dog, second movie crows or ravens, and then the third movie just goes back to dogs again. What a fucking
back to puppies. Yeah
I don't know, cats are assholes.
But it was interesting to me to see, like, there are also animals who like see Damien and get all like, fuck, hell no, you know, like no, I'm not about this. From baboon, giraffe.
Giraffes are just like
horses, and there's probably something I'm forgetting somewhere. But yeah,
I would like to see a turtle just slowly be like,
or become a minion of Satan and slowly just kind of like move like to like
crawl got a little knife
in esophagus or something. Yeah.
I'll cut your gizzard out.
Okay, ding, ding, ding. You get the prize, John Carlos. That was a great answer. I feel like that's everything I have. I also just love the fact that
you know what I want?
Yeah. What?
It's another dog, but I want like those big bug-eyed chihuahuas, so that now when the nanny looks at it, it's like, and then like close up on her, and then close up on chihuahua.
But if you've ever had like a chihuahua bark aggressively at you, I don't think that's hard to imagine. You know, also it's a dog. It's a dog. So, I mean, it's still like in the same family. Here, Des, we're not talking shit about you.
I feel like the obvious answer to your question is snakes.
Yeah, I was. It's
biblical.
Yeah. Biblical, yeah. But I also love the fact that he lands in practically the president's lap at the end of the movie. And I'm just kind of like, this makes total sense.
Okay, so let's talk about 2 because I always presumed that the sequel would be him being. I always thought it was weird, like your parents die and you get adopted by the president. There's got to be
No.
someone else, and then you watch the second one. I'm like, oh, you're not with the president, and then I guess that makes sense. That like, no. At the funeral, the president and his wife are being nice and offering you company.
And it's a photo op. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So that, which I'm glad, especially because even growing up as a kid, I remember, not as a kid, I remember when, because we're at the right age where everything got released on DVD for all these movies that we knew. And I remember the cover for the DVD of Omen 3 featured artwork similar to this. And I remember seeing the presidential seal,
Oh yeah.
and thinking, well, he's with the president at the end of the first movie. And then the cover for the third movie, he's got to be involved. And then the second movie has it's more to do with like an industrialist and a museum philanthropist family than anything to do with. See, cats are assholes.
She just wants some attention.
Yeah.
Des, take it easy, baby.
So let me say this: the first 5 minutes of the Omen really had me kind of going.
Yeah.
Because we start on Bugahagen again, and I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah. This is familiar. Also, the same DP from 1 did 2. So like the look of everything feels like I'm just kind of continuing the first movie.
And the same score too. Jerry Goldsmith, same composer. Yeah.
And yeah, it's not as good.
Oh, blasphemy. Blasphemy.
I don't blame him. I don't think there's much here for him to. You can argue that sometimes a good score can elevate the material it's looking at, but I think in this case there's only so much. But I'll get to that.
Okay.
No, but the opening scene had a lot of promise. It like lulled me into like, oh, like yeah, it's the same thing. And then I don't want to say it goes off the rails, but it's there's no more promise than there is in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Huh,
like,
okay.
Okay. So it's Bugahagen and we're all kind of continuing. I was thrown off instantly though, because the newspaper, he talks about how this happened a week ago. And he's like, no. There's this container with these things. This is the only way to kill him. And he doesn't open up and go, it's the knives. But he goes, no, it's in here is the only thing that can kill him. I'm like, I thought the knives are the only thing that can kill him. What's in that box then? He's like, well, there's a note explaining everything. And I'm like, the last movie, we spent a lot of time trying to convince someone, but now you're just going to send them a box of knives and a note, and they're just going to do it. I'm already, we're off to a weird start. But I never thought the knives were in there. It wasn't until they open and they're like, oh, it's the knives. And I'm like, so there's a second set of knives? Because they say it's a week later. And I know for a fact, even now, if I wanted to send something from the US to fucking Megiddo, it's not getting there in a week. And the fact that also depending that Gregory Peck got shot and that someone would have to get these knives, an American police officer or some collecting evidence, I don't know, and then would know to send them to Megiddo. So like just my sheer logic never connected that those knives from the end of 1 are what Bugahagen or whatever has at the beginning of 2, because that's impossible for him to have them a week later. It wasn't until later.
Shipped to him by a contact in the States.
I don't buy it. Yeah. It's just, so the whole time in 2, I thought they were just more knives that we have.
Megiddo.
Yeah. And it isn't until the 3rd movie when Damien goes, the knives in Megiddo, these are the only things that can kill me. And I'm like, so these have been the same knives the whole time. I'm just apparently applying too much logic. But apparently, yes, the same knives from 1. Somebody figured out to mail them back to Bugahagen in the span of a week. Fine, I'm moving on from that. But I just didn't buy it. And I was very confused for an entire movie about how there's just a second set of knives. It's just
okay.
Yeah. God, I don't have like a lot to say about this movie, but I do. I found it interesting that Damien was played by a so obviously British actor, and I can't tell if he was directed to try to be American, because holy fuck, if that was the direction, did not succeed. But also, if the idea was like, well, no, he was from London. I'm like, yeah, till he was 5 with 2 American parents, and now he lives in Chicago. Why is he British? But if the idea is like, no, 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 once that accent gets into you from ages 1 through 5, it stays, or it's hard to wash away. But I found not myself being pulled out, but like his accent confused me.
Oh, I really liked it. See, I love the fact that it links to him because I love the fact that it also like comes and goes because it's like, well, I mean, yeah, he was he spent his formative years out in the UK, you know, long enough to learn to go, no, daddy, no. And so then he's going to come over to the States and start to learn, you know, hang out with other people. And the first day he's there, he's probably talking like this, like little baby James Mason. And
Yeah.
then
Once you get that Mason in you, you know, it doesn't leave.
yeah, right. I mean, it's hard to shake, but James Mason never shook it. But
Yeah.
but I mean, so I love that there's like this kind of like air of propriety to him. Like he's got a formality, a sense of it. Like when he speaks.
Yeah.
But and I
See,
love because it makes him like not quite fit also, and I don't know. There's something about it that just totally works for me. But I'm
maybe
just like,
upon second viewing, it sounds like I could see how it's working for you, but it was too distracting for me to ever give over to it.
oh my god. Okay,
Yeah.
no, it's actually I actually thought about it today. I was just kind of like, I really dig this kid because also okay, number two, like
No, but he's doing the.
yes,
He's pretty good in the part.
yeah,
I'm not
and his
knocking his
look is
acting.
perfect. Like his look is fucking like
Yeah.
connecting that little face that we see, you know, for most of the movie, but it's particularly at the end, and even the little, you know, Medusa head that they see
Mm-hmm.
with the Gerber baby on it, which looks just like little Damien from the first movie. And the second movie, then it grows up and it looks more like a drag queen, but it does look like the kid. So I was just, I don't know, I feel like actually the casting for all of the Damiens, I totally, I'm just kind of like, I get it. I get where you're going. Yeah, good for you. Whoever did this, good job. I applaud you. But I'd say like I don't even know where to start. Like the well, I had a question for you.
Yes.
We could just like get everything else to bounce off of this. But I had a question for you because I'm watching his scene with Mark, where Mark's like running out into the woods and he's just kind of like, no, Mark, I love you and I want you to whatever. And I was just kind of like, I wonder if Giancarlo would still be friends with me if he found out I was the Antichrist. So I want to ask you, if you found out I was the Antichrist, would you still be friends with me? A moment of truth.
Well, do you still have the same end goal agenda that like
If
that,
I'm the Antichrist, probably.
the Book of Revelations foretells?
Yeah,
Then
probably.
you know what? Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because I know your reign will only last 7 years, and then the second coming of Christ will destroy you. So, like, I know that the world will be fine.
Won't
Like,
you be
because
destroyed too with me because you're like, you know, complicit with what I'm doing?
were all of Damien's followers destroyed in 3? All those hundreds of people?
We didn't see them.
I'm
We
sure
don't
they're fine.
know.
No.
No, but
Oh
also
well,
we're not
actually,
talking about.
well, no, because they're still gonna burn in hell for aligning themselves with the fucking devil. So,
Also, if
I
I'm the Antichrist and I
I'll,
find out you're just waiting for my reign to end, I'm probably going to kill you. If
well,
I start
okay.
seeing you like,
Here's
hey,
I
you're
don't
not
know because
drinking the blood, John Carlos, that
the
we're all
question is,
drinking at this sacrifice.
see, I'm projecting the 32-year-old version of you that's like an adult and blatantly evil at this point. I'm imagining that you don't, if you just stay Eddie.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. You know, there's certain things that people, you know, do, and you're like, no, I can't handle that. And if I don't know, because his whole argument is like, no, like come with me, Marcus. We can. I won't
Yeah.
be evil too. You'll be my mate or whatever the fuck. It seems like if you were like, come on, John Carlos, I won't kill you. You're like, you'll be one of my buds. Like, I won't make your head explode. Like, you know. That's a scary thing though, because Damien's still in this horrible place since when he's coming to terms and figuring
I
out.
know. I love it.
So like you can't, it's hard to answer that because he's not
Mm-hmm.
grounded yet. So you don't know. Whereas you know, if Sam Neill's like, hey, be my friend, you're like, well, you're grounded. You know what you fucking are.
Yeah.
So if you say like,
But I mean,
come with me,
that said,
I won't
Mark
kill
does
you.
die. Mark does die in that same scene.
Yeah.
So
But
he follows through. Damien just gets
out of
to
a rejection,
shriek
it's
afterwards.
it's a heartbreak that leads to the, you know, it wasn't, it's
Yeah.
because he said no that he dies.
It's
Um,
it's because of everything he said. Just kind of like, you know, because what I wrote some of it down. Did I? Wait, I thought I did. Shit. Oh, I'm looking.
well,
But yeah, it's just kind of like, what the fuck? Where is it? Anyway, I
don't
thought I wrote
know.
it down. I guess I did. Oh yeah, here it is. The beast has no brother. Don't call me your brother. And just screaming like, you were born of a jackal, you know, and shit like that.
Eddie, my problem is if I say no, I wouldn't be your
Yes.
friend. That sucks and that's shitty. That's sad. And if I say yes, I'm siding with the devil and all the evil things that you intend to do. You know, if you
Yeah.
found out that your friend was like a pedophile, you would be like, not friends with you anymore. You
Mm-hmm.
harm children. Now imagine that it's not just like a very specific act, but like I am the devil incarnate and all the shit that comes with that.
Right.
I'd be like, hold on, Eddie, let me go read the book of Revelations. Well, it turns out your reign's only for 7 years. So maybe we're not BFFs, but if you want to like still go see movies together.
Well, then I'd
No.
probably be like, okay, well, then I'm asking you to like make a concerted effort to see that my reign lasts beyond those 7 years. Or I can't just have you hanging around for those 7 years and then just piecing out, going
Well,
like, time for
I don't
heaven
know.
now. That feels great.
This is hard for me to answer. And you know why it's hard for me to answer? Because this is all dependent on me believing that there is a devil and like going like
Yeah,
I
Mark bought
can't.
into it like that. Like he just read the Bible. It was just like, you were born of a jackal.
Well, it's funny you should mention that because a lot happened. One of my problems with this movie is that everything happens too easily and too quickly in this movie. People learn and accept things far too quickly. But I'll get to that in a moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
That said, there's a huge amount of denial coming from Richard the whole movie.
I'm going to leave that question a little unanswered. And
okay, cool. I just wanted to ask it. I don't know the answer myself. If it were reversed and I found out you were the Antichrist, I'd probably be like, not altogether surprised, but
right. It'd be more between the two of us. I
right.
feel like I'm the obvious one.
That's why it'd probably be more effective.
The devil's
if
a trickster, and that's why
yeah,
be more, you know, this
yeah,
charming son of a gun
mingling the truth with lies and shit like that. That's some devious.
Yeah, Richard is full of doubt, and it takes him a little while to get there.
And then when he does, it's like turned on a dime, just like
but
180 degree.
But so many of these people, though, you know, like Mark overhears a conversation, reads a thing, and then he's just in. Like, I'm staying away from Damien. Charles Warren, you know, gets the box, reads the note, and then he's like, oh, this is fucking son of the devil. I'm like, what the fuck? He just like, so we spent a whole previous movie really getting these people to get to a point to believe such a fantastical threat exists. And recurringly in this movie, it seems to be, here's a note. And I can't buy it. On the other hand, or in the movie's defense, sometimes that's one of the things about sequels is that like, we've already done that once. Do you really want to do it again? So we need to, but also I don't buy it when it happens in this movie, how quickly people just sort of seem to accept the truth of what's going on.
See, number one, maybe that is just my audience relief, because the hardest thing in the world for me is to always sit through watching one person believe and have to like tell people over and over again, like, yes, it happened. Yes, it's the truth. And then finally, maybe somebody believes you halfway through the movie and you already wasted half the movie like being frustrated. So, I mean, there's that. But there's also
it's a sequel. So
yeah, but I mean, from the movie's point, I that maybe it's just my relief that we don't have to do that quite so much. But there's also the fact that like it is a sequel. Everything that happened in the first movie, even though the only thing that anybody really ever mentions is the climax, like what happened between Robert and Damien at the end of the first movie. They don't mention all the other deaths, but those deaths did happen. So maybe this is just me doing work for the movie, but me thinking these people exist in that world. They know what happened. They're all in the loop. So when they kind of like are presented with this, like, no, there was a reason. Because maybe I don't know. Again, maybe it's just me doing too much work, but it's just
It
like
might
if
be.
you can't wrap your head around like something that happened before, um, and then all of a sudden something comes to you and it's like, this is what it is. And also mysterious things are happening during the movie. Like people are starting to drop and die mysteriously all over again. It's like, what if this is fucking true? Also, there could be like this divine intervention, like maybe it's just kind of like God like shining through you, just kind of like being like, oh my God, I see the truth now. I don't can pretend I understand,
The
but
movie
there
doesn't
is something
depict that,
something
though.
gratifying to me about watching these people kind of like, especially when Richard finally does turn. It reminds me of Grandpa Simpson, Abe, when he runs into that Treehouse of Horror episode where Bart's a vampire. He's just like, we have to kill the boy. Like, how do you know he's a vampire? He's a vampire. Ah!
You killed
That's
Zombie
William
Flanders.
Holden at the end
He
of
was a
this
zombie?
movie. That's William Holden at the end of this movie.
Yeah, very
So I
much
don't
so.
know. Yeah, there's something about that that I don't know. It does.
I
It really
guess
doesn't bother me. Really
the other
doesn't.
thing, well, the other thing is in the first movie,
Yeah.
yeah, it's weird that our nanny died. And then,
Yes.
it turns out that's creepy. That priest that was bothering me died.
Yeah.
That's those are two occurrences. It's not, that's not even a coincidence at that point. So when they go to Megiddo and the ball gets rolling. In this though, Aunt Marion dies,
Mm-hmm.
and then that crazy lady Joan who comes talk to you dies,
Yeah.
and then your buddy Bill Atherton goes under the ice and dies,
Yeah.
and was it Presarian? And the gas gets
Passarian.
out. Yeah.
Passarian. Yeah.
Oh, we went and saw Dr. Kane. Now Dr. Kane's dead. Oh, and now my son Mark is dead, and I'm like, too many people fucking die enough that should give the characters more pause. He's incredibly slow, even though I see people turn too fast. But holy shit, Richard is a little slow considering how many people in his life all seem to keep dying, especially after he's been warned. This kid's the devil. Yeah, I feel by the time I get to Dr. Kane, I've been like, that is kind of fucking weird. But
yeah, Meshach
Also-
Taylor too, in that elevator. Great.
so I noticed that each of these movies has one gnarly death scene,
Yeah.
and the elevator scene is totally that. It's great.
Yeah, he
It's
gets
stupid, but it's
sliced in
great.
half. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and you can tell.
And we get to see it from like 2 or 3 different angles. It's great.
Yeah, right. And only 2 years have like gone by. I mean, as far as the film release from the
Yeah.
first film, like only 2 years have gone by, and already I can feel the climate changing. Like it's just kind of like the movie in terms of the movies. Like, well, we gotta go harder. We gotta be even, because I mean it
Yeah.
is. I think it's even more grisly because you don't just see him get cut in half, because you see the decapitation, but we don't see like the underside of like like the throat and the neck and the spinal cord and everything like that. And when he gets cut in half, like you
We see
you
guts.
definitely see it. He looks like a wrap. It's like
Yeah.
cut, and
And they cut the sandwich and break it for you, and then
exactly, that's what he looks like.
That movie starts to suffer, and it's funny because it came out in '78. But that thing that happened to the Friday the 13th sequels, where we introduce someone only just to kill them either one scene later or in their same scene, just for a
Sure.
kill count. But
Right.
I remember when Joan Hart showed up, and I'm like, oh, so like she mentions that she was friends with the photographer, so she knows
Mhm.
about Megiddo and the knives, and she's here to warn you. I'm like, oh, so you're going to be like the priest of this movie.
Yeah.
And then the very next scene, they kill her. And I'm like, oh, that's different. And then as it goes on, like the doctor is like, hey, I'd like to run some more tests. Jackal, and then like dead. I'm like, okay, so it's like we wrote a bunch of characters so we can just kill them, because prior to the church scene where Robert gets killed, Only 4 people die in the first movie.
Mhm.
Whereas in this one, Boogahan, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 before Richard and Anne have their showdown at the end. The kill count in this is so high.
Yeah.
It is so much more of a sequel and so much more of a quote unquote horror movie where we have to like kill people in interesting ways, which is not something I needed from the Omen one, and separates it from that one considerably. Not necessarily a bad thing, but I like that 3 kind of cools it down a bit without like, let's not kill 11 people in one movie. I like people dying in movies, by the way, but it just felt a little silly in this one. There's a lot of deaths, and the fact that no one really seems to respond to it much.
Well, see, what I like about it is the fact that, like, because I mean, even like the characters who live, like there are characters like, I thought that Sergeant Neff, Lance Henriksen's character, was in this movie so much more than he was because I remembered him, and you know, and I've seen these movies, but I don't like have them memorized. So when I still have that joy when I watch them of just kind of like, oh shit, I forgot about that. And one thing that I love about him being introduced and kind of not being used, except as like a quasi mentor in like a few contexts with Damien, is I just start to get this sense of the world that Damien is like going to have like rallying behind him. Like there's a broader scope. He's older now. Like when he was born, people were probably just kind of like popping up like out of their their holes, you know, or whatever, wherever they come from. And maybe there wasn't like a big devoted following. Maybe that's why the dog had to hypnotize so many people. But I felt like the second movie started to kind of suggest this is even broader than like a nanny coming by, or you know, something like that. Like,
which I was down for.
Yeah, so the fact that like even the deaths like were increasing, I was like, well, there are more people now. There's more at stake. He's getting older and we have to keep protecting him. So yes, it would certainly raise an eyebrow, but I'd argue that's why so many people, like when they turn, and again, I don't care, but
I wish that would work for me if the deaths were at the hands of the fact that there are more people in this network. But all these deaths are just more spooky, random satanic goings ons. In fact, so much so, it's fun. I remember watching Final Destination 3 when she's seeing all the clues for deaths in the photographs, and I remember thinking, like the Omen, nice pull. I understand where you're coming from. Got it. What's ironic is that I'm watching the second movie going, this is a fucking Final Destination movie. So many deaths are like, you know, and then the gas, oh no, and then the ice, like there's, you know, the bird comes and pecks my eyes out. Well, first my engine breaks, and then the bird, and then I fall in the ditch, and then I walk in front of a truck, and then like, it's all just mysterious little nothings killing these people. It's just evil satanic power. One of the things I kind of liked about the first one was when the nanny would get involved, you know, killing like the mom in the first movie. Damien knocks his mom off the thing. And granted, there's still some mysterious stuff with the priest and with the I'm all for a little bit, but this movie, there's so much, like, let's see here. There's too much mysterious force killing people, satanic force killing people. And so much of it's happening. It's too powerful. It's I don't know. I don't like how much it's used. The opening scene with Boogahagen and Michael and the cave-in, and he even goes like, "The Antichrist is here." I'm like, "Well, no, he's not. Like, he's 5 years old and in America. And I don't think at 5 he can do this. This is still the Satan force. This is someone protecting.
Again, I think it's that blurred line of like, oh my gosh, you know, like Jesus and God. You know,
right,
like
exactly.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
In that same sense, you know, Boogahagen is going to disrupt the plan. He wants to send the knives. Aunt Marion has a heart attack. Why? Because she doesn't like Damien. Joan dies because
she's going to cut him out of the will too. Yeah.
Joan's going to try to stop Damien. Dr. Kane is like, so much of it is a response to protecting or people who are just a problem for Damien. 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5. And then some are a little more just like Pusarian or Bill. I forget, Bill Atherton, was he going to do something like? I forget why.
He was standing. No, he was standing in the way of the corporate takeover of the land. They
Right.
were, yeah, they were gonna like start taking the land away from the people and start like in an effort to like feed them. And that was another thing. That was the thing that stood out to me that I never really paid much attention to in prior screenings. But I was just like watching, and I can't remember his name. Is it Paul? Paul, I think, the guy who's taking over that, and who's the reason, he's the one who's like looking over his shoulder when Passerian goes down and everything like that. Yeah, I feel like Bill, because Bill was the one who was talking about like it may not even be illegal, but you know, just because there were lines like, just because nobody's ever done it before doesn't mean it's against the law, and he's just like, but it is unethical. So he was the only thing standing in the way, or one of the only things like standing in the way of that land acquisition. So
right, which is already a business that Damien's going to inherit. So it's still an obstacle in the plan. So many people die in this because of their sort of response to or obstacle of Damien. And then, I mean, I sort of get it. But within that, the thing that made me laugh was the presence of the bird. The eye. I'm not saying the bird has to be scary, because I don't necessarily think like, ooh, scary bird, and then they failed. But you know, the bird shows up and then she has a heart attack, and I go, okay. And this kind of also leads me to the music cue. I feel that the music in this, it felt spoofy to me. I laughed at times. I think they overused the choir. That the theme doesn't really work for me, and the bird shows up with Joan on the road. But like the third time, there's this shot when the kids are playing hockey on the ice, and the camera pans, and then the bird comes into frame. It's like, and I just went, and I laughed out loud. It was such a comical cue. And I'm not supposed to be laughing at this, but I laughed so hard at the bird reveal music cue. I laughed twice in this movie. Once because of a music cue in the bird. Just the goddamn bird kept showing up. I'm like, I'm not buying it. It's silly. It's not effective. It's not ominous. It's not scary. I'm just laughing. I thought like crows. I mean, I've never been attacked by a crow, thank God. But I have had a crow angry at me. There was one, because apparently, like, you know, they pair up and I guess they're monogamous for life. But one thing that I know for sure that they do is they mourn each other. Like after they pair up, if one of them dies, the other one mourns. And I experienced it firsthand. I remember I was on my way to go do a show and for a performance that night. And I was just going out. I don't even remember why, but I was just like going out to the end of the driveway. Maybe it was to like put the trash cans out or bring them in or something. But there was like a stain like in the street, like something had been, you know, like run over or whatever, but like, you know, a while ago. And I just get this like over my head, and it's not leaving the branches of the tree like over my head, but it is there, and it's like aggressively cawing at me. And crows, when they're up close, are fucking huge. They don't even feel like birds anymore. They feel like giant mammal animal things that can like overpower you. All you can think about is, I'm intimidated. At least that's what I think. And hi, Des. My cat's comforting me. But you want to be on camera? No? Okay, bye. But so and I remember it just like being there and everything. So I'm just thinking like, oh my gosh, like poor Joan has this like bird like hovering, and then another one goes in and everything like that. And even though the blood looks totally fake, it looks like paint. I don't care. It matches matches her pretty red dress and everything like that. I think again, like I know what I'm watching. I know that I'm not watching for the special effects or anything like that. And I also love the fact that like I don't know. I just really like Joan Hart. I like from the second she comes on screen, I'm just kind of like, oh, and I forgot that she's not long for this world either. So I was actually really, really kind of bummed, because I was just like, this. I mean, I do think it might have been a better movie had she been around a little bit longer and actually been able to do some sleuthing. But at the same time, like I like the threat. I like the fact that there's something that immediately takes her out of the equation. So I don't know. That's what I have to say about the birds. It works for me. It's
It makes me happy. Cinematically, like it makes me like, I'm like, oh, I get to watch this scene again.
Well, you know what worked for me, made me happy, not in
What?
the way intended, was
Uh-oh.
Joan's death. I laughed so hard when she gets hit, and then we see the shot of like her feet go up, and then we see like her dummy go over the truck and into the trailer. And then she falls down and gets run over, but it whee, and then thunk. I rewound that and watched it again. I fucking laughed my ass off, and I don't think I was supposed to. I get when people go up when it's like Brad Pitt getting tossed around and Meet Joe Black,
Yeah.
because like it's lower to the ground, it takes you out by the shin or knees. But a vehicle that size, especially weird reference, but and Freddy Got Fingered, Tom Green gets hit by this truck and they set up the dummy and they were expecting it to hit him and knock him down and run over him. And instead, and in both cases, the truck in the Omen 2 and the truck in Freddy Got Fingered are supposed to be applying their brakes. When it hit the dummy, it launched the dummy forward. And luckily the cameraman kept following it, but they're like,
Oh,
that was completely unplanned. And luckily we caught it. And they kept it in the movie, and he just glides across the street and then kind of gets up from it. They had to like alter the scene. But I thought of that when I looked at her, and I'm like, I know what happens when you hit a body at that speed, and when it doesn't go is vertical. It goes that way. And she just
dug it. I still dug it. No, but I
looked...
will say, I don't think this movie scares me at all, except for one scene actually scares me. But it again, kind of like the elevator in the first movie scares me. In this movie, the scene that gives me the most anxiety is in the classroom when Damien's teacher is like making him say all these dates.
Oh, yeah.
And Damien's just filing them off. The only reason it scares me is I imagine being an actor and having to memorize all of those dates, because your eye contact is with the actor that you're working with. You can't read unless they just had a prompter in front of him, but I feel like they didn't. And I feel like I need to watch that section of any of their commentaries just to see, like, did he memorize every single one of those dates? And is every single one of those dates correct? Because it feels like they would be. But it's an actor's nightmare for me. I'm just sitting there going like, oh my God. Because that's what I hated most about fucking history in school, was just like having to like memorize dates.
Right. I'm not
learning like, who gives a shit? Yeah. I'm with you there. So the fact that the teacher knows that that's a shitty thing to do to a kid is just like, like rattle off all the, let's stick with the dates. Forget about
his
let's
performance.
Just talk about the dates. Yeah.
No, that teacher fascinates me in that scene just as much as Damien fascinates me in that scene.
Yeah. He's right there. And I think that's another part of what gives me anxiety. But really, it's just the memorization part. I mean, I think it's an effective scene, certainly. But as an actor, I'm just sitting there going like, oh, so much to memorize, and you have to do it so fast. Otherwise, it's a new take. You have to start all over again. And this is back in film, where it's like, a big old reel. It's not digital, where it's just kind of like, okay, let's next take right away. It's like, no, we got to reload the film, and oh God. Anyway, yes, you were going to say, I'm sorry.
I just like the payoff of immediately after that with Lance Henriksen being like, hey, what are you fucking doing? Like, don't show off. Don't. Yeah. One of the little things that I'm always interested in and fascinated by and disappointed and frustrated by when a thing is a hit, so then it becomes a franchise and a sequel, and now the things that happened in the first movie become benchmarks of a franchise, and now these things have to be hit again. And being that I've been exposed to the Omen for so long, but never experiencing it as part of a franchise, it was interesting to watch this, because we start the second movie and I instantly, like when we're introduced to like Lance Henriksen, I'm like, oh, is he like the nanny? Like, who is he one of them? And then there's all the business people at the Thorn Corporation, and I think, what was his name, Ryan, whatever, the little curly haired guy that like takes over. I'm like, oh, is he one of them? Okay, so he's one, and he's one. I'm like,
Paul.
Yeah, Paul. Like, but I wasn't like that in the first movie. I'm like, but it becomes a beat of like, who are the people this time? Is that guy? Who else is it? Are there more? Are there more? And so that was interesting. Only because only because I didn't see. I genuinely didn't see it coming with Anne.
I was just going to ask you. Okay.
That really worked for me. I still wonder, and I like that the movie doesn't answer this. Is she an agent the way the other people are? Or is she simply someone who, because she even says, like, I've always been, it's always
I've
been
always
Damien.
been his.
Yeah.
I've always been
Yeah.
his. Yeah. I've always
Is it
belonged to him. Yeah.
Is it something that she just, as, even though she's not his birth mother, and this poor woman suffered, the amount of times people throw in her face.
Yes.
This woman puts up with some shit in this movie, which
That's
I felt
right.
bad
You're
for.
Richard Thorne's second wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she's not. He's not. They're not really your kids. And then, yeah, it gets brought up at least 2 times.
Yeah. Fuck you. Anyway, yes.
Yeah. I'm just curious if she's been an agent the whole time, and was placed to meet Richard, or if it's a case of something that she was inducted to over time, or if she's never been inducted, but she knows. It was, you know what I mean? Like, she doesn't have the fucking tattoo. She doesn't go to the fucking meetings, but she just kind of knows. And in that sense, but whatever the root of it is, I didn't see it coming. So good job, movie. And they do talk about that. There's an interview with her on the Shout Factory thing.
Oh, nice.
About how, like, she knew it, but like definitely didn't. Like, at one point, someone on the crew was like, "You're the ultimate, like, the bad guy of this movie, and you're not giving it all." She's like, "No, I'm not giving it away at all. Like, that sucks if at any point you know." So she was very aware of it as an actress and as a character.
Yeah.
What she was hiding, and that, I guess, the distance that kind of creates within their marriage.
Well, that's Lee Grant too. I mean, that's an actor studio actor. So
yeah.
And
I've seen her in plenty, but she's fucking, especially in that last scene. It's very little on the page.
Yeah.
It's very little on the page, but it's so much in the frame. She's great.
That said, I love that, because I don't suspect it. I didn't suspect it either. And when I watch it, I don't really feel like she's throwing us lines. But I just love, I mean, in fact, quite the opposite. Like, I love the fact that, like, when she's learning about, I forget what it's called, but like the big, you know, thing with all the heads and everything like that, and she's just watching the slideshow.
Oh, the horror Babylon statue?
Yeah. She's just learning about it and just even talking about, like, how terrible it is and everything, but she's fascinated. And she's doing a great job. I mean, Anne is doing a great job of just kind of, like, not doing anything, not to arouse any kind of suspicion. But then she does show up, like, the next day in the museum just to kind of see the statue and everything like that. And I'm just like, and if you're really paying attention, but at that point we're all watching Joan, we're not watching Anne. So, because Joan is carrying the action from her rejection with Richard from the last scene, and she's doing, so that's the line that we're paying attention to. But I love the fact that that was one of the things for the first time that I noticed too, is that Anne has these wonderful little, or Lee Grant as an actor finds these wonderful little kind of secret moments for herself where she's almost showing her hand, but not. Like, I always thought about when she's just laying there watching the movie with Damien, and he's just, like, laying on top of her.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just so disarmed and so relaxed. It's like they're not even acting, they're just watching a movie and totally comfortable with each other. And I'm like thinking how that applies to the performance, because even though she's not performing, she's in her version of heaven right now. She's in hell right now, because she's exactly where she wants to be. She's devoted to him. She knows she's going to keep him safe and that she's not going to let anything happen to him. And I just fucking love that. And even, like, when she walked in on fucking Aunt Marion and saw the body, there was nobody there watching her. But, like, what if there is? Like, you never know where people might be. So if you don't react in just the right way, like if somebody's looking through the window or if somebody's in the next room, like, you need to,
well,
you
I
know,
still chalk that up to, like, yeah, she's here to protect Damien, but it's still gonna be hard for you to see a body for the first time like that. I don't
know. I feel like she's playing it. I feel like
interesting.
Yeah.
let's can I bring up so actually while we're still talking about her, the ending, first
Yes.
of all, ending is way too abrupt. Didn't appreciate that structurally. I kind of hated it. Um,
Okay.
but I did like the idea of I'm always his. Okay. And then she's like, Damien. And he's like, oh, fuck you, Fireball. I'd be like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what? That shocked the fuck out of me. She's on your side, bro. And then,
Yeah.
but also, this whole movie has just been like, oh, I can get into that kid's head and he'll like fall on the ground and shake. I can make my cousin's brain fucking do whatever. But it's mostly just like little looks and like, oh, and then like the power of Satan, some gas is going off. But at the end of the movie, it's the fact that it's specifically him on the other side of the door makes me think it's not just random Satan powers. I think it's actually him. It was too big of a jump. I'm like, I mean, it was shocking and effective. But my very next thought was, Damien can shoot fucking fireballs? Holy shit. I can't wait until the next movie now. And then the next movie, it's just him smirking and being evil looking and no fireballs. Severe lack of fireballs in part 3.
What is
And,
that
and
line?
what a glorious, I love in movies when people are on fire. Fucking love a good stuntman covered in fire. Freddy Krueger, fucking Eric and Billy Madison when they're by the oven. Like, and when she's just, whoa, that's a great stunt person on fire beat. But the fact that it just cuts to like him like walking out and going outside, and then it just ends like, oh, it was two people in a room, stabby, fireball. The end. I thought we were really building toward a beat in the museum and like a confrontation, and instead, oh fuck, we're over. I'm actually bummed.
Oh,
I
okay.
wanted a scene to really play out, and I didn't get that.
I mean, okay, number one, just to like your fireball thing. I felt like I just heard the line from Exorcist when yeah,
why didn't make that drawer open up?
When Father Damien is asking her
As a gross
why don't you just make the straps disappear? And what she says something like that would be far too vulgar.
Vulgar.
Is that what she says?
Of power.
A display of power. And I'm just like, okay, well, we've got young little Damien as a kid, like who's just killed his best friend and knows he can. So maybe he's just like pulling out the stops, trying to see like, what else can I do? You know what? Let me see if I can do this fire thing. Wow, it worked. Awesome. Peace out.
But at 32, he's like, that's a far too vulgar display.
Exactly, because he knows people are going to do autopsies, and I can't arouse suspicion. And what's more, I got my fucking minions. You know, like that's what I hire people for. So that's what I think that is. Number two, the ending doesn't bother me. I agree with you. It is abrupt, like just that Damien, you know, like freeze face.
Yeah.
Whatever angle they catch that kid's face at.
And there's another beat. Like it's a franchise. End on Damien making a face.
Exactly. But I don't know. I feel like enough happened for me to kind of be satisfied, because I'm just kind of like, okay, I mean, he's kind of got all of his obstacles out of his way. So next, and also because I know it's going into the next movie, I don't know, it doesn't bother me so much.
I don't mind him walking out and that, but literally like the Anne and Richard get to it's right before that.
Mm-hmm.
It's their beat of, well, here's the knives, and then fuck you stabbed, fuck you fireball, and then that's it. I was like, oh,
that was enough for me. Okay,
it wasn't for me.
Oh, okay.
Oh well. I will say, I found the scene with, is it the cousin's name Mark?
Yeah.
The scene where Damien goes after him in the woods.
Yeah.
The first half of it was kind of silly and laughable, and I was not having it and was kind of just giggling at the melodrama of it all. And then about halfway through the scene where he like gives him like this like ultimatum and this choice, it becomes fascinating. And I'm like, holy shit, I've never seen a scene go from here to like here with like a line in the sand within a 5-minute scene. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I touched this little thing and it made a beeping noise. within the span of 5 minutes, it has its own like Act 1 and Act 2. And Act 1, I'm like, it's a little cheesy, and then Act 2, I'm like, holy shit! By the time they're having it out and he kills him,
Mhm.
I was mesmerized. It's a great scene. The second half of it.
I don't have that line in the sand, but I
It's
understand
pretty.
it.
It starts out pretty goofy.
No, it is,
Also,
but I don't know. I love watching two boys in the woods, and one of them's telling the other one he loves him, and that's not the issue of the scene. Like like that. That's
yeah,
not
no,
what they're arguing about. I don't know. There's
well,
that, and
there's
also, yeah.
and then to me, one of the bigger problems with the movie, it's I enjoyed aspects of this. Okay,
Yeah.
I will watch it again. It tells its story. First of all, it has a good enough story, but and of course, it can't be the first movie. But this movie does.
Right.
It's more about plotting and plot points and plot beats, and less about the story and the characters. And that first movie is so character driven, and the story unfolds so naturally. This one spends too much time with setups and plot beats and plot beats. It has no menace. It just has plot. And there aren't enough scenes of Anne and Damien together on the couch. There's an awful lot of explaining the Thorn Company and the painting that's going to come, and the knives and the painting, and also they spend an awful lot of time going, oh well, Megiddo, and oh well, with your father, and oh when he had died, and then this happened in the past, like oh and Bugahagen, like god damn, we're talking about that first movie a lot. There's a
I
lot
dug
of
it.
I
Totally dug it.
found it too expository,
Okay.
and not rich enough in character. I
You know how
missed
I
the
feel about
dread.
talking head movies. You know how I feel. I'm
If
like,
I'm engaged, there's no menace to this movie. The first movie's not scary, but there is some dread and some menace, and I don't really feel that in this movie.
okay.
Having said that, there are beats that work. I love the second half of the two of them in the woods. Although I do laugh when he flees and then runs to the dock and just goes, "Why?"
Oh no! See, I was just gonna. Okay, then you and
I
were of completely different ones because you know where I went.
It felt like, where did you go?
Okay, I went to the Metatron story in Dogma about when he told Christ
On paper,
everything
yes.
that was going to happen.
It
and
didn't
everything
work
like that.
for me.
No, but I'm just like watching him, and there's no. I mean, also I don't know. There's something about the way it's framed, and just like watching this boy just kind of slink down into this corner of. He's supposed to like hold dominion over the world and be like the king of this and that, whatever, the king of darkness or whatever, or the prince of darkness, I guess. And the fact that I appreciated it maybe solely on the level that he's going through exactly what the Christ child went through, as far as I'm concerned, and also just getting the chance to experience him as a boy with some kind of like something that he's wrestling with. It's not like he's going to completely back away from it. I'm not convinced that if Professor Xavier showed up at the military school and just kind of whisked him away that everything would be okay. We're still talking about the Antichrist. But I like the fact that I don't know, maybe it's just enough for me that, because I mean there's something that's so menacing in that grin of the little boy at the end of the first movie that I totally love. But I love the fact that this movie went the opposite direction and tried to give him like an actual I don't know if it's, I guess not childhood and not adulthood, but just adolescence, like this wrestling with like this thing inside of you, and this not knowing, like knowing it's right for you but knowing it's not what's right, and somehow making peace out of it. But also maybe it's also largely because I was a closeted kid, and because you don't really get to articulate that kind of shit, it all just kind of remains abstract, and you're kind of like not really seeing things the way they are. You don't know who you are. You don't know what's right. You don't know if what you're doing is right. You just kind of guess it normal a lot of the time. Maybe I just identify with it on that level. Yeah, that's all I can say.
I'm actually glad, because that was literally going to be my next point.
Okay.
So I'll just kind of continue.
Go for it.
From where you were saying, because my favorite thing about this movie.
Okay.
it starts when God, was it Lance Henriksen that explains to him like, don't you fucking know who you are? Don't you know what your purpose is? And then he like, God, does he read Book of Revelations? Is he in the bathroom?
I think he doesn't go in either the bathroom and then the bunk. I think at some point he's in his bunk.
When he starts to understand, or at least have it explained to him what his purpose is, and then like he's like running down the steps to like leave, I'm like, oh no, here's the fucking movie. How like this isn't just regurgitating certain beats from the first movie or giving me 11 different murder scenes. This is the meat. This is what I want. Is the story of a boy who is finding out not only his bigger purpose, but also that it's like an evil purpose, and it's like the inverse of the Jesus story. And the few scenes that deal with that, because there aren't enough of them. But when he first finds it out, when he's like leaving and he's upset, when Mark is avoiding him, those are the scenes that when this movie fucking shines. I just don't like the why moment, because it on paper I love it. In execution, it felt like Darth Vader going, no, like
no, not for me.
It didn't work for me.
Not at all. Because that moment,
the record scratched, and I got pulled out. I got pulled out of the movie. I got pulled out of the movie, and the record scratched.
Oh, that's sad. Okay.
But for his trajectory, it's a great beat. And it's probably the best element to the movie. For a movie that's called Damien, I didn't get enough of him, but what I do get in the middle is really solid. Really, really solid.
And what I want to say also, just to kind of like say, I do see where you're coming from to some extent with this movie, because one of the thoughts I had while I was watching William Holden, I know that he was one of the people who was originally approached to play Robert in the first movie and passed. And so he never got to play that role. But then what's funny is you watch this movie and you're like, well, you kind of did. I mean, it's not the same movie, but you're and this is actually something I enjoyed about it. I actually made a note about it. The fact that like the world is broader and it's a much bigger cast. That he's kind of like the same. He's like filling the Robert role, but has even less to do, because there are so many beats that aren't getting recycled, because that would just be like, why are we even making this movie? So he feels much more like a placeholder, but there's something about that I like. I could see where people would criticize it, because it's like he's like Gregory Peck but more boring, and it's true, he is. But I like the fact that he's more boring, because I feel like there are other characters, even if they're not around long enough, like Joan Hart, or like I even just love being around Meshach Taylor as Dr. Kane. Like when he's there, I'm just kind of like, oh, like a good person, you know, like a whole person who I'm not suspicious of at all, who I can depend on. And then and again, I love Lee Grant as Anne. I love Sylvia Sidney as Aunt Marion.
She's
so
great.
I mean, yeah. So there's just I don't know. There's just enough to keep me cycling through this, and because I don't have the kind of like breakaway from the moment, because you also know me, if I'm on board with enough of what's going on screen, if something is kind of like, you know, like the why, because I can't even say it's not a great performance, because I don't know, I can't even see him. It's more about like the framing of it and what it means. And if I can see what you're doing, and I like what got me there, and I like what follows enough, I'm going to be like, I see what you're doing. I get it.
Yes.
And it's not like I'm sitting there weeping, and you know me and how easy it is for me to weep. But I do acknowledge the fact that like a lot of things are revisited and recycled, and even like, but you also have to understand, like, one of the things I fucking love about sequels, I'm somebody who loves some sequels. I was weaned. My first introduction to sequels really was the night weaned on the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. One of the things I fucking love about that is how the connective tissue between the movies, particularly like 1 to 3 to 4 to 5, And then if I want like maybe 1 to 7, and you know, like I mean, it's all, and even 1 to 2. Like there's, like, oh, I found her journal. Let's read it. But I like that. I love when there's a continuation of a story rather than. I remember one of the most frustrating things for me when I saw Friday the 13th Saga the first time. I think we've talked about this before, is how little connective tissue there was. Even if it was like happening right on the heels of like the last movie, it's like, well, where's all the people I met? Where's all of the things that happened? Why is nobody talking about it? It's like I'm just watching the same movie all over again. Now I love it. I know what to expect when I see them, and I'm just kind of like, okay, this is the Friday the 13th formula, so I'm ready for it. With the Omen, it answered more to those old longings I had for like progression,
connective tissue
from like one chapter to the next. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is definitely, I mean, there's some franchises that do this, and this movie's one of them, where like the sequel is just the next chapter. We're now creating a bigger story. Which with a story like The Omen, when you're starting it with not only a child who will, by story purposes, grow older with more to tell, but also the fact that there's a destiny involved. Yes, if they had just simply done, well, now he lives at this house and some people die. You're like,
right.
Yeah, no, it's him growing into what he's going to be.
Yeah, and he's something different every movie.
I did find it slightly coincidental, and then I could also let it go. But in the very beginning of the movie, it's here, take these knives. We found these paintings, and you give them to the people, and then like, oh, so of course the people that adopted Damien are the people that the painting are going to, and he wants to get the knives to. Like, what a coincidence that, like, it's not just that his uncle is the head of this industry, but it's all. On the other hand, the first movie set like a precedence for like, well, it was foretold. Like, this is just the next part of his destiny. It's the next part of the plan. So it isn't really so much a coincidence, so much as like, this is in a bigger picture. This is how it's supposed to go.
Right.
So I let it go.
Yeah.
If it was any other franchise that didn't have like biblical satanic destiny, I'd have been like, what are the fucking odds? The Thorn Corporation's got the museum that's got the painting, of course, and Damien just happens to be their kid. Get the fuck out.
No, but
The Omen. It's The Omen, so it works.
But I would also argue, like, and this is just me solving the movie's problems, but from a practical side, I'm just thinking like, okay, but Damien was given to a specific family with a specific intent, and I always thought like the Thorn, with their Thorn Industries,
that's the plan.
There's an ambassadorship, they've got political ties. I mean, he's supposed to get into the world of politics, and even military school. It's still kind of like tethered there, like he's still largely got like America like in his head, and he's being conditioned to like watch how people are controlled, and how like with all of his cohorts and everything. But also the fact that like I always likened the Thorn family to, not exactly, but to, let's say, the Kennedys' next door neighbors, not the Kennedys themselves, but the Kennedys next door. Right. Because if you wanted to make sure that the Antichrist was going to be taken care of, and you drop him in the lap of one Kennedy, and then they get taken out of the equation, where is he going to go? To another Kennedy, or and it's just, so you're always going to be connected to the sea of politics, and to like a broader kind of like world impact, just from where you happen to be born in, raised in, and where you went to school, and who knows you, what your last name is, all of that shit. So that made it practical to me. I don't know.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is it normally would be a bit of a reach, but it is practical in this story because that he was put in that family for a specific reason, and that. So I'm fine with it.
Cool.
The third movie.
Yeah.
The third movie.
Yeah.
Sounds like you like it. It sounds like,
for different reasons.
Yeah.
but yeah,
I
the
do find a
first,
little yin and yang within this, and I'll
yeah,
tell you my yin and yang in a moment. Why do you like
totally.
it?
Why do I like it?
Yeah.
It's there's no one big reason. There's a bunch, like a million tiny reasons. One thing the first note I wrote, which might answer your question, just the quality of the film, like the stock. As I'm watching that one guy with the hard hat deal with all the rubble of the museum and everything, first note I wrote was, looks like Superman 3.
That's funny.
which I also like. But I love, I mean, it's like I said, it's no one big broad thing. Because actually, this is the one I have the most issue with, mostly for its ending. You talk about an abrupt ending. And also, you talk about something feeling completely underwritten. I mean, it literally feels like I'm watching the writer get them to the standoff with Peter, Kate, the seventh monk, and Damien, and the writer just went, I give up. Or there's a writer's strike, so they'll just do whatever they do. I've written enough. And they just kind of thought, like, so we just need to get the dagger into Damien, and it's over. Christ. 2 Bible quotes, credits. It is the most anticlimactic climax of any movie that I think I like. Maybe I have to think about it.
Especially if you describe it to someone without having seen it, you're like, that sounds pretty epic. You're like, it's not.
No, it is not. It is over like that. And also, I've had it with the blonde Jesus, and he's quite obviously like got like fair hair, like as he's making so. Also, like, so now you're a man because it said in the Bible, I was not be a baby, I'm a man. So there you go. Thanks, folks. Glad you enjoyed the movie. I literally. I did enjoy everything leading up to that, and but you know me, I like to go home happy, and that ending always, I have to get up, and I did it this time. I always have to get up and leave the room. Like, I'll still listen to it, but I'll be like putting dishes away, getting my trash thrown out, petting my cat, moving this from there, like folding my laundry. I always have to do something else because I can't sit there and let the credits roll and feel like this is, especially if I usually watch these movies in succession, one day after another, and it's too depressing. It feels like I've wasted my time. So, but the movie doesn't make me feel that way. So
I definitely felt when I got to the ending of 3, I'm like, oh, so 2 and 3 both just have abrupt endings. Like, okay, great. I mean, 1 isn't. I mean, he gets into the church. Raises his thing, and then cops immediately shoot him, and then we just cut to a funeral. But it doesn't. It's not abrupt so much. It's brief, but I would never call it abrupt. 2 and 3 feel like I got shortchanged of a bigger scene. I wanted more from Anne and Richard, and I wanted more of like, oh, I got stabbed and Jesus is here. Like, oh, we're just sort of fuck it, we're done for both movies. Fuck it, we're done. My yin and yang, I noticed while watching 3 is that 2, the only kind of fresh element to me, well, besides so many fucking people dying in 2, but besides Damien learning and coming to terms with himself, the rest of it feels like a formula from 1. And there's a formula at play within 3, but for the most part, the story of 2 feels very familiar, but it's kind of absurdly told and silly at times. Whereas 3 feels like a different story. It's not repeating everything so much, but it's kind of blandly told. So like, well, what do I want more? Something familiar but silly, or something different but flat? Because a lot of this movie, even on paper, if it sounds interesting, but it's just kind of flat for me. I don't hold into much. And the only time I do feel things, I appreciate performances, but I also giggle at a few things. This movie made me. I'm not laughing at the movie, but I was just kind of delighting in things.
Like,
maybe I'm going to hell for saying this, but the whole like dead baby plot, I just instantly was like, oh fuck, are we going to kill fucking babies in this movie? Oh fuck, we're going to kill babies in this movie. Holy shit. I mean, he is the devil. he's not a nice man. All right, movie.
Yeah. No.
Are we gonna do a sequence of killing babies? Oh fuck, we're doing a sequence of killing babies. And
Yes.
we never, obviously, smart choice, don't show me dead babies. But
Right.
it's actually very neat the way they frame and depict things. Like the nurse walks in and just goes up to the oxygen thing and just turns it down.
That one kills me.
There's some fucked up ideas in this at play. So that's cool.
That is one of those
I'm
moments
not
where I'm
saying
just kind of
dead
like,
babies.
it's just a movie. It's just a movie.
I'm not
There's
saying
not
dead
a
babies
dead
are cool.
baby. It's just, yeah. No. But
the
I get
idea
it.
that
It's
the movie
effective.
had
It works.
the movie had teeth for parts.
Yes.
I called it bland, but that subplot has fucking teeth.
I go nuts. I literally had to tell myself, I don't know where the baby is, but it didn't die on set that day. It's just that she's just an actress. It's just because I started getting so worked up and bothered. I was so upset.
Eddie feels
and
things.
I just had to keep reminding myself, and I had to do the same thing with the baby, Barbara's baby, Harvey and Barbara's baby, when she takes the iron and starts going toward it, and I'm just like, okay, they're not showing us anything because nothing happened. There wasn't. She's an actress. It's a set, or it's a practical location. It looks pretty practical, actually, but that puppy has a trainer. Everybody got paid. The baby's probably fine now, and if not, it's not because of this movie. Everything is fine. I needed to talk myself off the ledge twice in this movie.
So you didn't go over "It's All for You," Damien, off the ledge. You had to.
No, I did not. I was no.
This movie definitely does have this one cemented to me, because it's usually if the third one cemented it, I'm like, okay, so each movie has somebody, be it a Joan or a priest, that goes, here's what happened and you gotta look out. There's danger because of this. And then you go, oh, I don't believe you. Oh, you gotta believe me. Okay, priest, thank you. There's gonna be a dog or a bird and a dog, and you go, oh, there's gonna be someone going, these are the knives of Megiddo. And I go, okay, so there is definitely an Omen formula. We're gonna have rich people, either business people or politicians or both, and we're gonna be in a world of nice houses and politicians. Okay. This is what the Omen formula is. Got it. But within that formula, we have a somewhat different story. It's, one is, it's played as maybe a mystery for the main characters. It's not a mystery for us, who this kid is, what he could become. Second movie, oh my God, what am I becoming? The third one is different because he's like, I am the villain. I know who I am. I do understand what I'm doing. He's not confused about anything.
No.
He literally is monologuing to this crucifix effigy.
Oh God, that crucifix too. Twisted.
Yeah, it's a little silly movie villainy for me. Like, I have a room that I go to with my Jesus that I talk to.
I love that he has a soliloquy room. I love that he has a soliloquy room.
But the scenes are dope.
Yeah. It's Sam Neill, of course.
Sam Neill, it's great in the part. Even when it's something as simple as head tilt smirk, he's really good at head tilt smirk. And side eye. A lot of what his intentions are, what he's saying. So props to him. Props to him a lot. The other thing that I giggled at, and again, this I'm not laughing at the movie. It's just that it reminded me of. Have you ever seen Help? The Beatles movie?
Oh, the Beatles Help? Long time ago. I don't remember anything about it. Yeah.
Ringo has this ring that the tribe needs for their sacrifice. And at one point there becomes a montage of there are 5 attempts to kill Ringo and steal the ring. And it's number 1. And then they, and they're like, oh, someone's trying to, my hand is stuck. Oh, then the blow dryer, oh, shenanigans. And 2 are in the elevator, and 3, I was in the sandwich and this guy was trying to get behind. Whoa. But this montage of the 5 attempts to kill Ringo, the saw going under his bed. So when I saw these 7 priests, each with a knife, failing to, I'm like, I was waiting for one of them to just run in and yell, Kylie, and get the stupid ruby ring. Flashback to Help. Because I adore Help. And this is this was the serious, unironic version of Help, with the montage of And now the attempts by the priests to kill the demon child as a man. Attempt number 1, like, oh no, he didn't, he fucking got me. Attempt number 2, these two guys bumble it up. Like these bumbling Italian priests just fucking.
Right. No, I can't lie. Seeing the monks like attack the way they did, like, and especially when we reached the point, because one of them had already died, but when we reached the point where the stars actually align, causing the what do they call it? The I wrote it somewhere. DeCarlo Trinity alignment.
I just thought it was the new Star of Bethlehem, but yeah.
But they called it the DeCarlo Trinity alignment. When that happens, I feel like I am watching full-fledged Jesus fan fiction, like Ben-Hur level. Like, I mean, it's just like, look at Jesus, and I'm just kind of like, wow. Like, yeah, this is where we tonally really detour away from the feel of the first movie,
and
which again,
way,
I don't. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I don't dislike it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but in a weird way, I mean, even the first movie, we're quoting the Book of Revelations. I mean, if he is truly ascending to that point of adulthood, like, how could you not? Like, this is all kind of what, if you were building towards it, it's kind of what you're building towards.
Sure.
But yeah.
The thing that I really enjoy them building towards that I feel pays off even more so for me, I think is, because I mean, you know me, I love good versus evil, or the pushback from one force against another, saying, I'm not going to let you do this. Well, I'm not going to let you do this. And that's totally my bag. But this one, the thing that I like the most, again, I don't want this to sound wrong. Like the baby, I love the baby montage. I mean, as an audience watch, I love that. But I also loved the fucking Disciples of the Watch meeting of our people, when before all of that, when we see they are our Boy Scouts in this legion.
Yes.
There are some nurses, and there's a priest.
Yes.
And
which shouldn't surprise you from the first movie. There's 2 priests in that movie too.
I know, but still, I'm just like, but also you don't really know. Like, one of them is like, who knows what happens to him? Then the other one, he's like, you know, all and everything. So, and he's walked away from his monkhood and everything.
We get to see them.
He's happy about it. So
we get to see the priest in active mode, not in afterwards.
Yeah, like, oh,
mode.
Damn my eyes, like, kind of thing. It's more like,
too late.
I mean, and also just like the way they kind of chant back at him. It's just, I hate it. But I love, as an audience member, I love it. I'm just kind of like, this is really creepy to me.
I liked the 2 little. This is just me being a nitpicky asshole, but sometimes you watch a movie and nits get picked. But I remember seeing everyone up there. I see him arrive by helicopter on top of a mountain, and I see all these hundreds of people. I'm like, how the fuck do you all? And you're all in your, like, I'm still in my nurse attire, like I'm still in my priest attire. I kept my Boy Scout clothes on, which means that they're already, and now it's time for me to go up the mountain with the other hundreds of people to a secret meeting with the hundreds of people all in our work clothes. How the fuck do you all get up there? I don't get it. Fuck it, movie. I don't care. But it was just too silly of a congregation. And then I also got really nitpicky about the fact that it really felt like they assembled the crowd for their shots, and then I don't ever see one shot, if I recall correctly, of Sam Neill addressing the crowd. It's all tight on him, and then them listening, and tight on him. And I'm like, man, I really wish the movie had really shown him with them. I needed Grindelwald talking to his people. I needed something, but it was shot on 2 separate days, and it just bugged me. It pulled me out a little bit.
No,
I don't like being reminded I'm watching a movie when I'm watching a movie. You know, unless it's the director's intent to be like, I'm bringing you in to feel like you're watching a movie. You know, like Baz Luhrmann likes to remind you you're watching a movie.
No, of course, yeah. And no, sometimes I love that. Sometimes I'm just like, stop reminding me I'm watching it. But no, in this case, like, I actually like the fact that his head is larger than life. Like, he's like Charles Foster Kane. Granted, there's no tiny little Charles Foster Kane in front of like the big, you know, like, but he's like this thing, and then they're all just like this tableau. And I don't know. I like the separation, because also, if I saw him mixed with them, he'd look smaller. There's something about him needing to be the thing they worship. So seeing them incorporated together, I don't like it. I don't like it. If you and I were directing this movie, we'd have an argument about
Yeah,
that.
but we'd work towards we'd find an answer. You know.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
It satisfies us both. Or I'd compromise, I'd say yes to one thing that you want elsewhere that I don't want, so I can get the thing I want for this.
Oh, there you go. A Skid Row bro.
Yeah.
Skid Row bro.
Squid Row Pro.
Yeah, it's from a cartoon that I liked called Undergrads. And I'll help you with your homework and you'll help me with this. And he's like, oh, I've done that. It's a Skid Row bro. What? Yeah, do one for me, a Skid Row bro. Yeah, a Skid Row bro. Okay.
That's adorable.
It is.
That's a good one to remember. I like that.
Let's see. One gnarly death scene per movie. That dude rigging so he could blow his own brains out. And the fact that they show like the blast, you never see this in movies, like the discharge and the burning around his mouth. I'm like, holy details, movie. That was
elaborate.
It was almost too much for me.
Oh, really?
Almost. But
okay.
it's a hell of that is a gross, impressive shot to the face.
I love the theatricality of it too, because he doesn't just shoot himself. And he doesn't just shoot himself in a room full of people. He literally
Home Aloned himself. Yeah.
Yes, he Home Aloned himself. So they could. This is the devil. That's how you know it's the devil. So they could spend, particularly his secretary who opens the door. She would spend the rest of her days knowing that she was the one who caused his death, unknowingly and innocently. But her opening the door set the gun off, and she's the reason he's dead. I mean, she's like the initiate, I guess, even though not willingly, but that's I think that's the devil. I think that's good shit.
It is. It's one of the better good shits in the movie. There's a lot of little things, again, when it comes to the formula. The dog will look at him and he'll just be like, oh, I must go kill myself. It's the thing that I saw done better in one. The priest going, this is what's the truth that you need to know. And he's telling, the lady, like, I've seen all this done better in other movies. Here are the knives. And I never found it in the first movie. These are the knives of Megiddo. You have to start in the center and work your way out. Whereas in this movie, they're like, well, actually, we just give one to each person. And these are the knives of Megiddo. Everything. The nuance isn't there. Despite that, there's fun to be had in this movie. But with a lot of sequels, it's not the original. That's the hard thing about remaking a classic or remaking something that's so great. So anytime it hits the beats of the first movie, actually, I can say this about two. Anytime they regurgitate beats from the first movie, I'm not terribly thrilled. But when two decides to focus on Damien, dealing with stuff, I go, oh, that's interesting. And anytime they deviate from the formula here, I go, oh, that's interesting. I could just watch a whole movie of Sam Neill monologuing. Oh yeah. Or each movie has to have a scene where someone finds the fucking numbers on his head, and I found the third one to be the most implausible. Yeah, it's just kind of like, boop, there it is. Yeah, it's actually like it's already cut and the hair's not growing. Yeah. And she did in the first movie he had to fucking search for it. And this one, she's like, and he had to clip some things. Yeah, no, but also, we needed to get to the end. And he's laying on the ground, not moving. And I'm like, I don't buy it. Like however, a puppy. In retrospect, though, they established that with the birth of the new Christ child, he will lose his powers. So I like to imagine he not only did he fuck her, but then he fucking assaults her basically. Yeah. And I feel like that took a lot out of him. So instead of passing out in the room, he got up and he's like, oh fuck. And then just boom, there's something to be said about the fact that he's naked in that room alone. I feel like he collapsed there. And he is drained from both Jesus and boning. He's extra drained. And then I just love that she leaves and it ends with that. God, what was the original? There's it's from a Warner Brothers cartoon. They did it. Have you seen Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom? Yeah. when the Indoraptor is like laying in the cage and then it opens one eye and like smiles.
Yes, I'm one of the only people who loves that.
And it's great, and it's God. I forget what Warner Brothers character. That's more like a Looney Tunes. We're like,
Yeah.
like, I love that fucking Damien does that. Like,
His is more bing, like though it's like nothing, but it's very reptilian, even more reptilian than the Endoraptor. But
yeah, because the Indoraptor has a stupid little grin too.
Yeah. One thing I will say about that I like that they do with Damien is just his interaction with the president. And just as a little tangent, I want to ask you, okay, because this actor Mason Adams plays the president, and in the opening credits, to tie this back to Superman, it says Mason Adams as the president, and it reminded me of the opening credits of Superman the movie, where E.G. Marshall's name comes up and says, "And E.G. Marshall as the president." And I always thought that was just so we don't think the president is kneeling for a second. We're like, oh no, but E.G. Marshall's the president. So, you know, I always thought, is that it? But then I see this thing with Mason Adams as the president. I'm like, was there some kind of like, I don't even know if you know the answer to this, but I want to put it out there. Somebody answer in the comments. But was there some kind of like stipulation that if you were playing the president of the United States, it had to say that you're fucking playing the president of the United States in the opening credits or something? Because I don't get it. I don't understand. Why do we need that? It doesn't say it for anybody else. So, and I've seen it twice now. I have a feeling I'm going to see it again if I keep watching movies of this era. That's my question.
I don't have an answer for you.
Okay. It was a tangent. Anyway.
I wonder if it's only the size of the role. Because like let's say with, you know, like Morgan Freeman, and was it the Asteroid movie? Right? Like that's a pretty heftier role versus like, oh, do you just show up for like 2 scenes?
Right.
Well, then you get the credit because it's just for like, it's a 2-scene little thing. I don't know.
Okay. I have to find someone who knows. Because I don't understand. It's twice, and they're both like little. Anyway,
I don't understand.
Okay. I don't understand. But what I do love about that scene is the fact that Damien. If you were to tell me that like you're going to watch a movie where Damien's an adult and he's in the Oval Office talking with the president, or wherever, it doesn't look like the Oval Office, wherever they are, and they're talking things over and everything, you'd think like, oh, okay, so Damien's like talking him into doing some bad shit. No, Damien is not like the devil on his shoulder. He is quite literally saying like, well, it is against the law. And he's telling him what he wants. But the president is full on like doubling down, going like, yeah, sure, no problem. Hey, I'm the president. Nobody messes with me. But so I'm
I will hope to see that specific dialogue and performance in a movie someday.
But I love the fact that Damien is much more passive and is much more delights even more so in watching us screw ourselves over, like watching the highest office in arguably the world being corrupt just because it can be. He doesn't even need to sway it. He's just going to benefit from it. There's something about that I appreciate.
That's a more positive way of looking at a sort of problem I have with the movie, but not totally.
Okay.
Which is, you know, because everything's, you know, up for like if the original text of the movie is anything to go off of from the Bible, that you know, he will rise from the seas. Well, some have interpreted the seas to mean the world of politics.
Right.
Well, you know, so if everything's a translation of something, you know, and they talk about his reign will last for 7 years, pitting man against man or brother against brother or something.
Yeah.
I'd imagine just based on the first movie of what that would entail, and if it's supposed to be from the Book of Revelations, this sort of apocalypse that the son of the devil creates for 7 years. He even mentions in this that like it's been 7 years. Like I am worried now because we are approaching. So in the last 7 years, world seems all right. It's a pretty minor apocalypse that he's pulling off here. But like you said, in a weird way, if I'm looking at it literally, do I want to look at it as an interpretation of what those 7 years mean? Sure. Do I want to look at man against man to just be what they're causing in the Middle East? Because they bring that up a bit.
Yeah.
If that's what he's up to, but he's not up to much in the US unless, you want to, again, look into his, well, like, let's see what I can get the president to do. It's my personal apocalypse, which has maybe a snowball effect as far as policy goes. But
Well, they also discuss the economic crisis and the recession and stuff like that, which I'm just kind of
Oh,
like, yeah, people are suffering there. I mean, it's not pestilence, but it's much more insidious. It's much more kind of, because it's also, you've got the masses kind of like accepting that that's the norm. You have it happening now,
Right.
where we're enraged, but what are we really going to do? I'm going to sign the petitions I can. I'm going to do what I can, but it's like, but what can I really do
It
aside
almost
from
felt like
vote and encourage other people to?
him wanting to get whether the presidency of the youth council.
Yeah, the UN Youth Council.
The UN Youth Council. That seems like he's about to start. I'm like, that's what you do at the beginning of your 7-year reign or during your 7-year reign, not the last fucking week of your 7-year reign. Especially when you have the Bible and and the stars are fucking like, I don't know. But I also don't want some big silly epic. This is my apocalypse. I mean, I joke that I do want Sam Neill throwing fireballs, and he's got no fucking fireballs in this movie. But if he was just when he has his meeting on the mountain with everyone, if while talking he's just like Tim the Enchanter, just for no reason.
Everybody
go find the babies. We hear you. I don't know.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't need it to be needlessly epic, but it also feels like a small satanic apocalypse, and it reminds me of especially in the when you would get sequels that the budgets would get smaller and smaller, but they still had so you've got your 5th Planet of the Apes,
yes,
a battle for the Planet of the Apes, and it's such a petty little skirmish, and maybe just because the word biblical makes me think of things being epic, but if I accept the idea that the text is up for interpretation, here's your interpretation. Yes, the economy, and we've got the Middle East thing. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest thing I want to say about this movie is, and it goes back to the first movie, is even though there's things about 3 that I'm enjoying, even though there's things I can take away from 2, I still don't need 2 or 3. I think one of the greatest things about the first movie, specifically why the movie does not need sequels, is because the idea of Damien is far more interesting than anything you can give me. The idea that in the first movie, we are saying what this child will become, what this child could do, the danger of his potential, and the idea of things are fated. All that, and letting me imagine what it could be, especially since I've loved this movie for like 20 years and had my own idea of what it could be. It's kind of like the Star Wars prequels back in like the 90s, when people for 20 some odd years got to imagine, well, what was Anakin like? How did he become Vader? And now we have one singular answer that didn't satisfy everyone. I liken it to, John Connor is fated to lead the resistance against the Terminators. I don't need to see the future war. Chances are the future war is probably not that interesting. I just like the idea of like a Christ child that needs protecting because destiny. And Damien works just as much as an idea than he does as a child character. And there's a mystery of what he could become. And I never needed the answer. And the movie these sequels gave me answers. And that's fine. They're not awful.
Yeah.
But they're not as much fun as you thinking about it in the first movie. That dread, that mystery, that potential.
Yeah, right.
Give me that. What I never needed to say, oh, what was he like when he's 32? I can't wait to find out. It's more satisfying for me to imagine than to actually get it.
Okay, I get that. Like I said, I mentioned Superman 3 at the top. And what's
Mhm.
funny is I think that's kind of what this movie is for me. It's like I get this, a great actor performing, like the well, I mean, it's not the title in this movie, but the main role, but the main figure that the whole movie is about, and a great performance from that actor. And I get um enough of a resemblance to the first movie that it's like, okay, shrug. I'm on for the. I'm not going to dispose of this movie. I can watch it and go like, all right. But it also detours so much from what I loved about the first movie that it becomes its own thing. It's like
Yes. Well,
yeah.
it's not even titled The Omen 3,
No, it's
which
the final conflict.
I actually really dig that.
Yeah.
I also personally have a love of franchises that just fucking bungle their franchise titles. I love that we have the Fast and the Furious, but the fourth one's just Fast and Furious. But then there's Fast 5 and Furious 7 and the Fate of the Furious. And you go, wait, what? Huh? I love Die Hard 2, Die Harder.
Right.
A Good Day to Die Hard, Live Free or Die Hard. And you go, what? The first one's called First Blood. The second one's called Rambo First Blood Part 2. But then the third one's Rambo 3. But then the fourth one's just Rambo? Huh?
Right.
And
I've seen
I like
all
that it's
4 Purge movies, and I don't know what order they are in to this day.
well, and when you say the first Purge, am I talking about the first movie or the
No,
fourth
yeah,
one
exactly.
called the first Purge? So here you have The Omen, then Damien Omen 2 with no the, and then just the final conflict.
Yeah.
It reminded me also of like how like X-Men, like Dark Phoenix went into production, I think it's X-Men Dark Phoenix. And then they're like, oh, Logan did well. So maybe we don't call it X-Men. What if we just called it Dark Phoenix? Like it's just a Dark Phoenix story, but like it's a fucking X-Men movie.
Yeah.
But this felt like, I don't know if it went into production as The Omen 3, and they're like, no, the final conflict.
I don't know either, actually. Because that was one thing I wondered is how many people went into this movie knowing exactly what it was. Like, that's one thing I don't.
I would
know.
hope it was marketed as, I've never
Omen
gone back
3,
and seen
the final, like Omen 3, the
final
final conflict, and then you just go see the movie. And you're like, oh no, Omen 3. All right.
Because the
I'm in
DVD,
it.
at least the Fox DVD that came out in the early 2000s said The Omen 3, the final conflict.
Okay.
And that's what I always thought the title was, because that was kind of my introduction to the franchise. It was just
sure
when those DVDs came out and going, oh, okay, that's what they're called. Oh, okay. I guess Sam Neill's in this one.
Right.
Although it is funny, I also was a little, maybe it's my fault for not knowing the Bible, but it's the new Christ child. It is a baby. It is a child. It is a baby. Yeah. And it's called The Final Conflict. And they even talk, even in like the second movie, right, about how like the Christ is going to come again and defeat the Antichrist. The Final Conflict, the movie's called. So I'm like, all right. I'm like, so is this final conflict with the baby? I don't understand, but we'll get to it. And then they go to wherever she leads him to, right? Because she's going to lead them to where the fucking baby is, or no, where the priest guy's going to kill him. But he keeps talking about like how I want to confront first of all, if you take a shot every time he says the Nazarene, you're going to be dead. You're going to be dead.
Nazarene. I love it.
The Nazarene.
The Nazarene. Yes.
And slay the Nazarene. Like, oh my God, so many. Oh wow, it was fun. It was like, he keeps talking about like confronting the Nazarene and killing the Nazarene, and I'm like, is it going to be you in a room with a baby?
Exactly.
I can't wait to see where this goes, because it's a baby you're talking about, and it's called The Final Conflict. All right, and then we get to the ruins wherever they're at.
Yeah.
And he's calling out to the Nazarene. And I'm like, is it going to be like, is it, I thought like it was just going to be like sitting on the altar, like the fucking, like Dana's baby in Ghostbusters 2 or something. And then he gets stabbed.
Yeah.
So like, I'm like, oh, is Christ not going to defeat him? Because he got stabbed by the fucking, the Megiddo dagger. But then he still confronts Christ and gets defeated by like a ray of God's light. But it's totally like superimposed adult Jesus It's not a
Yeah.
baby at all. But then they
Yeah.
put up the quote saying that like, and then it will not be born
Exactly.
of man, it will be adult Jesus. And I'm like, well, I need that I need to read that quote beforehand. You can't give me that quote after, because I was very confused.
Mhm.
That because I either don't make the movie about killing a baby and just let me imagine the return of Christ as a man, or give me him fighting the fucking baby at the end, and it's like the son of the mask and doing like little kicks and shit. It was there, and there's no he just walks up to it,
Yeah.
the superimposed water Jesus, and just goes like, well, you haven't defeated me.
Yeah, you've won nothing.
Yeah, it's one line and then some light, and then it's over. And then I
Yeah.
just sort of went, the whole trilogy, just if
Yeah.
even though I didn't want a sequel, if you are going to give me that arc, this is what you built towards.
Yep.
It's a bummer, man.
Yeah, I concur, as I've stated. Funny thing is, like,
And
also
two
to touch on.
quotes.
No, I know, but also just to touch on like what you said, like, because I have already criticized it extensively. But one more thing that I noticed. Okay, when Kate shows up, and there's Peter with Damien, and she's like, I'll show you the Nazarene. He's like, don't go, don't go, Damien, it's a trap. He's like, don't go, Damien, it's a trap. He's just like, oh, if she wants her son back. And I'm like, okay, wait, okay. So, if she wants her son back, does that mean that you have like influenced him, and that if you get the Nazarene, you will remove, I mean, what you're agreeing to, not that you will do it, but will you like, will you remove the glamour or whatever from him, the thrall, and just give him back to his mother? Or are you just not gonna like destroy her son and let her know that he's still, I mean, because I don't know what that means. If she wants her son back, she'll show me the Nazarene. So it's like, okay, cool. So you're going there to see the Nazarene. So it gets there, and it is a trap. There's a monk there, the seventh monk with the seventh dagger, trying to stab you, and it goes into Peter. The whole thing is a bust, but your ball's in your court. It's your game now. Why do you think the Nazarene is really there if it's a trap? If it's a trap, I mean, can you feel him or something? I mean, I know
I always thought he
could
did.
feel him.
Yeah.
But he said he could feel him, but he also never knew him. It's not like he could feel him, like, because he also didn't know where he was. So it's not like, oh, the force is strong, like I know where he is, because then the movie's over, or at least the hit, that battle, the conflict is over. So I'm just like, so did they bring the Nazarene there? Or did the Nazarene just kind of like, oh shit, I can tell Damien's up to no good. I'm just gonna.
Eddie, it was God. It was magical God stuff.
So I was just like, okay. So I was so confused. Like he's going, Nazarene, where are you? And I'm like, how do you know why do you think the Nazarene is really there? This is a trap. Why would you? So I didn't understand.
Yeah. No, it doesn't make any sense. No. It's not explained. So yeah, we don't really know. It could be either of those two things. Yeah. So it does make sense because you've got options, but yeah.
Yeah. Other thing didn't make sense. Retcon, total retcon. The daggers. Ooh, ow. I thought this was the other way.
Well, yeah, you're supposed to use all 7. One in the chest and then work outward.
You're supposed to use all 7 splayed out like that to kill him. And
then in this one, they give one to each priest.
So they forgot. Or they didn't know. And maybe that's why when Kate stabs him, he doesn't immediately just like puff of smoke up in flames, whatever he does. Maybe dusted like a vampire in Buffy, but maybe he needs the ray of light from the Nazarene, who is now full-grown carpenter Jesus. Also,
I forget, she's not a woman of faith, right?
Your guess is as good as mine. I mean,
maybe it wouldn't have worked and it wouldn't have worked if Robert had done it because it's not being wielded. Because here's the thing, that the first guy, like, he drops it and Damien sees it like at the TV studio,
Yeah.
and I think he's even holding it, right, like one of the daggers of Nazarene.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the next 2 or 3 people fail, and I forget if he says there's 4 left or 3 left. But he's like, oh, there's 3 daggers left still, and I'm like, well, I mean, they're not. The guy died, but the daggers, you could still get stabbed by one of them. Like, it's not like someone else couldn't fucking do it. I think you should be concerned about the knives, not just the people. But all right, whatever. And unless the implication is supposed to be it needs to be wielded by a holy person, in which case, are you setting Robert up for failure in the first movie and her failure now because she is not a holy stabber? She's just a stabber. Don't overthink it. I'm just saying. This movie
Too
muddles
late.
things.
Yeah.
This movie
Yeah.
muddies
No.
a few things.
Yeah. No. So the Knives of Megiddo have like a blurry rule set, as do the powers of the devil anyway. But
Yeah.
But what I do appreciate just like the King Herod parallel with the killing of the babies and everything. Aside from just an effective chilling sequence, I like the fact that feels very, like New Testament to me. And I was Catholic, so I'm sitting here just going like, this is awesome.
And I'm such a lapsed Catholic that I was actually talking about this movie with a friend of mine today. She goes, "Oh, like King Herod," and I go, "Oh yeah! Oh my gosh!"
He even points
like
it out.
it's like
the 7th month points it out in a conversation he has with Kate.
It's like what they did when Jesus was born.
Yeah.
Good.
So I love that, and also I
didn't remember his conversation. I don't fucking.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's pointless. I mean, I again, like the. Oh God. Okay, sorry. I'm going to say something different than I was, because also he's got his little minion who's totally creepy. I dig Peter's performance.
Oh yes.
But he's like following the monk number 7 around and everything like that. Here he's like taking out monk after monk after monk. You know where the 7th monk is. Why is he still allowed to live and go visit from house to house to go to Barbara and warn her about her husband, and then go to Kate and warn her about you? Which I think that happened. Yeah, that happened before she went to go spend the night with him, and the whole butt rape shit. And which I remember the first time I saw that, and I didn't know it was coming, and it was like a. I mean, it was relatively calm, still waters leading up to that point. So, and then there's a sex scene, and I'm just like, oh, first one of these in this movie. Okay.
Yep.
Like we alluded to it before, but this is okay. So what is the devil like? And he's all like stopping, and she's all like, I want you, Damien. I want you. And I'm just like, I mean, I get it. Sam Neill with eye makeup, who wouldn't? But then the whole thing, and I did not know, but I knew. I didn't know we were gonna go here, and the fact that we're going here
until she lets out that like yelp.
Even just like watching you lift your head.
I was like, watching it, just going, is this going where I think? And she's like, yipe, and I'm like, oh, it is what I think it is.
I wish. You know what? This movie would have been much more of a laugh riot if it could have just like incorporated these things that you're saying to describe. If instead of like the horrible guttural thing that she does, she was more like, "Yike!" I mean, it still would have been atrocious, but I would have been like, "Whoa, she's silly." Anyway, but it's not silly, and the fact that she then stays. And we see her back with the claw marks and even the bruised, like the finger prints, like on her shoulders and shit. And I'm just like, and she's just putting on her shirt, Damien.
I'm like, what?
Damien. I'm like, bitch, get out of there.
Well, she's got to check to see, like.
Oh, right. But
so, part of me, because I remember watching that going, I'm like, is this really fucking after everything that you've just been told, like, are you really doing this? I'm like, is this just because he fucking saved you in the river? Which I honestly thought that was going to be her death scene. I was so shocked when he like saves her, because it felt like a beat. But then ultimately the next morning, I'm like, well, I don't know if you went with the intention of looking at his hair, or if this is just an afterthought. Like, he fucked me in the ass. Maybe he's not so great. I guess I should follow up with what the guy said. I don't know.
But I don't get that from her performance at all. She's so casual when she wakes up. She's just like, Damien. Damien. Oh, right. He's asleep, and I'm supposed to look for something. There it is.
Yeah, found it.
Right. But
well, it's kind of hard to find it when he's behind you and stuff. So it needs. Can't quite get a look at my hand. Can't You're right.
That's
Eddie.
why he did it. He didn't want her looking at his scalp. No, I just got the impression that like it was too intimate and that he just needed to also because he says it. I mean, he full on says like, I want you to see what I see. And he starts talking about pain and birth and pain and all the different stages of that we have pain in our lives and everything like that. That's what it's about.
Show you.
Oh God. I mean, I thought he was, I mean, full disclosure, thought he was hot up until then. That's when I was just kind of like, dude, I mean, even for the devil, this is
right.
this is like, crossing a line.
Him commanding the hordes of dogs on that bridge with just like that little head tilt and like the dogs. I'm like, that's fucking dope. I mean, I'm not like the devil, but that's pretty dope.
That's the thing. It's like all of his little side eye and all of his little just like his little twist of it. I mean, and just the way he talks. Sometimes it's just like a low little kind of like, are you? What is it he asked? I didn't write down the line, but when he's just like asking Harvey if he's familiar with the book of Hebron or something like that. And he's like, are you familiar with the book of Hebron? And he's like, his eyes are almost like always half closed. And I don't know why that makes him so fucking sexy to me. But one thing I appreciate about the fox hunt is it's like there's like a sport or two to like every one of these movies. Like the first one, I remember the rugby game. And the second one, it's like the football game and the hockey game. And then in this one, it's like the probably the most brutal to me of all of them, which is, like, but so poised and so English, whatever, like with the fox hunt, so angry at everything. I've been watching the fox get, and then watching the fox be dragged and wondering, please tell me that's not a real fox corpse. Like, I don't know. But everything about that bridge and the effect he has on the horse and then the effect he has on the dogs, it just it brings up this other question mark over my head of just like, well, the dogs obviously are easy, but it's because they're man's best friend. I don't know. He's not a man. He's a jackal, but whatever.
Oh, but yeah, you do see him. This is it with the horse. That's a different animal.
Yeah, and the horse gets all fucking freaked out and throws the monk, but the horse doesn't get hurt. So I'm just like, but is the horse throwing the monk because it looks like it's doing it because it's afraid of Damien the way the giraffe was and the way the baboons were and all that shit. But they're also there's an argument to be made that he could have just been like telling the horse, get the guy off of you. And the horse is like, oh shit, I'm getting scared. And when horses get scared, we do this. I don't know. Because the dogs have no problem. The dogs, all those eyes looking straight ahead.
Maybe he scared the horse by saying, hey, that guy on top of you wants to kill you. Oh, this guy, fuck, and then throws him. So it is a specific scared choice.
I feel bad when animals are made to do things like by like weird psychic shit. I just watched Suspiria and watched the dog go after the blind guy and like bite his neck and shit. And I always get sad in that scene. I'm always like, that poor dog. Because at some point it's gonna come back to Earth and like realize what it did. And dogs have consciences. Consciences. And I was just like, oh my God. So the horses, same thing. There's a horse whisperer for a reason, because horses have trauma. So I'm just like, oh my God, that poor horse. Here I am caring more about the animals than I am. Well, no, I cared about the babies. That was the scariest thing about it. Worked. Like, it was for once the movie showed me something that it was just kind of like, look how fucking fucked up this is. Yeah. And I was just like, I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable. And it's not even showing me it,
I wasn't, I wasn't uncomfortable so much. I was just happy that the movie, like, it had a pulse for that. Like, it was giving me something.
Right.
My last thought is just because I was curious how they were going to handle this, because I knew that there's a time jump for the third one, and I love when movies take place in the future. So like Predator 2 was in the future, like 1996, and you're like, So I'm watching the first one, it takes place, the movie came out in 76. Second one came out 2 years later, but
Yeah.
does a 7-year time jump. So technically, the second movie is already in the future.
Yeah.
And then the third movie came out in 81. So we're only 3 years
Yeah.
later. But he's 32 in it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but it still looks like 1981.
Yeah.
And then on TV, they're like, well, and then you took over your uncle's company in 1971, and then you ran that for like 10 or 11 years. And I'm like, he took over in 71, but the first movie came out in 78. Wait, was the first movie not taking place in 78?
I guess
Well, if he's 32. Wait, did the first movie take place in the fucking 40s? It did not take place in the fucking 40s.
It didn't look like it.
So no, the movies are just like there is a time jump, but we're not actually acknowledging the fact that like there's a time jump, but whatever year the movie comes out is just whenever the fucking movie takes place. Like who gives a shit? But it's just funny that he ages 20 years over the course of 3 years, but they didn't bother to set it 20 years in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I always imagined that it was going to be like a 70s idea of like what an economic, socio-political, apocalyptic world would be, I was kind of looking forward to that.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it was more like a Friday the 13th sequel.
It was just 1981, and we're saying it's been 20 years.
Yeah, sure.
How disappointing. Yeah, because I was expecting that little added cinematic cheese,
But I think because it links it in like enough as far as the look of the movie, like with the other two, that's the only like there's definitely like kind of like a connective style that I can see. And I don't mean like exact replicas, but I mean they all do have they all look like they're part of the same universe to me.
Yeah.
So there's something about
the Simpsons. When Simpsons goes on for 30 seasons, and then we still do another flashback to when Bart and Lisa were kids.
It's just now they've got smartphones. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever.
But
also,
that might have bothered me more when I was younger. It doesn't bother me at all now.
I just sort of let it go, but I just thought it was interesting. Also, and I just realized this today, but if I'm not mistaken, doesn't the Bible also jump from when Jesus is 13 to like when he's 30?
Yeah.
So I think it's fun that the movie made that specific choice, I think, intentionally.
There you go. Hey, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Okay, now I like it even more.
Yeah, it works. You were quite literally telling the allegory of the child, and then like the teen who the child who then learns, and then we skip.
If you want a sense of a solid timeline, though, I haven't started it myself, but I know it's on Hulu. There's the Damien television show, the series that I don't remember how many seasons it lasted either. I have yet to watch it. Heard good things though.
Blocked out that happened.
Yeah, and it's only based on the first movie, and they literally cast someone who, or at least made Damien the age he would be if he had been born the year the first movie was released, like, or whatever. So like everything that follows is like just like its isolated thing, and then the other sequels don't count. It's like the Halloween 2018 of but in the series.
It's funny you mention that because I was kind of thinking I don't think I want this, but I would be curious if someone did a sequel like Halloween that skips 2 and 3, but casts Damien at this age and gives me, I don't know, just more of the apocalypse that I imagine. But again, it's still, don't do a sequel to The Omen. I prefer the idea of Damien and the unknown future more than giving me that future. So, but I'd just be curious what you could do with it without certain limitations and maybe choosing to not follow the formula. I don't know. I still don't want it.
This is the thing. I have to say, like, going into the Hannibal series, I wasn't particularly I wasn't ecstatic about it. There's a reason I dragged my feet for so long, because I was just kind of like, no, the first movie's like Silence of the Lambs is perfect, and there were still sequels that I hadn't seen, and I was like, I don't need it.
Every once in a while,
and then you go into it.
Because I was same thing. Like I'm like, especially because it was Will. I'm like, I've seen Manhunter. I don't need another Will. I'm good.
Yeah.
And then it turns out they're like, no, you do. We're gonna do it real good for you.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna ache, and I'm gonna stand for these two, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna sigh when they hug at the end of the fucking finale, and Jesus Christ.
Oh, I'm gonna be
But
cheering. I'm gonna be standing up. Yeah.
one day, out of morbid curiosity, I am gonna watch the fourth one.
Yeah, I'm curious myself. I actually checked Tubi to see if it, because it seemed like it would be there. It's not, but I'm gonna see if it's streaming anywhere because I'm very curious. I
Yeah,
just
or
more so than ever.
what I wouldn't mind is maybe in a few months, in many months, hopefully
Mhm.
by the end of this year, if we get to a point where like 2 to 5 vaccinated people can safely be in like a space together, sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah,
I'd be down to watch 4 with you. I think that'd be a good Eddie watch.
I
And
think
I'm
so too.
sure, no offense to the people who got up every morning and commuted to make this thing happen, but I have a feeling 4 sucks. I have a feeling 4 is gonna suck, and I can't wait to watch it with you.
We'll probably just shriek a lot, or at least I will. I'll probably be like, "What? Wait, pause it." I have
Right.
a rant.
I
That
don't know.
need
I don't.
to, yeah.
It's never. I've never heard it have a reputation of being, oh my god, awful. Like people.
No,
But here's the thing: people simply don't really talk about it, which means they're not
no.
saying it's good.
Yeah,
You know.
it's probably just. But then again, I mean, all those Silent Night, Deadly Night sequels, I hadn't heard anything about them,
And
and
there's little Pino who and Pino and Pedo
with
and
his, yeah,
with his thrusting his mommy.
and
Like
the witches in the park with the drugging and the rape in the shower, and I mean, like I never heard about any of this, and yet
yeah.
I'm watching it going, I'm offended and insulted, but I'm certainly entertained. So
Yes.
who
So
knows?
who knows if anyone in the comments has seen the Omen 4: The Awakening? Let
Yeah.
us know if we're missing out on some Silent Night, Deadly Night 5 level entertainment.
Right. And I'm gonna have
Also,
Hulu for a while, so I may fall into the series at some point.
yeah, I'm gonna Google that in the second we fucking end this because I'm like, yeah, I
Okay.
forgot there's a Damien show. Holy
Yeah.
shit. Um, glad we did this.
Yeah.
I definitely, especially after talking about this, maybe in the next year or two, want to watch 2 and 3 again, just so I can watch fucking Joan get hit by that truck. And go, whee! It's like being pecked at by a bird. That's already bad enough.
Yeah. Yeah. But then
And
she starts crawling out of that ditch back onto the road. I'm like, oh
I'm like,
no.
yeah, well, I mean, I hate, it's one thing to have like the logic, but like
Yes.
also if you can't see, like don't go toward. And can you hear? I don't know. You're traumatized, so maybe, but I just wouldn't have done it. I don't know. I also just have a fascination with overly fucked up deaths for characters whose screen time I think don't deserve it. So like Joan shows up for one scene, and the next scene she gets the fucking meanest death. I love that kind of shit. I forget.
Yeah.
I'm awful for forgetting her name right now, but the actress who plays Lena Luthor on Supergirl, she's in Jurassic World as the lady
Yeah.
who's escorting the kids. This poor lady has like maybe like 1 or 2 featured scenes of dialogue, and she gets the shittiest, meanest fucking death. The pterodactyls. Oh my god, it's
I
a
think
gas.
it's awesome. I think
No,
it's
it's great,
awesome.
but especially in the
Yeah.
theaters when she wasn't Lena Luthor yet. I'm
Yeah.
like, this poor girl is the one that we're gonna. What the fuck did she do?
No, I was so busy just going like, whoa! I mean, I
was
like,
going, why? Why her?
No,
What
because
did
the Jurassic Park movies were never about retribution by the dinosaurs. Like the first
No.
movie, Muldoon didn't
No,
do
not
anything wrong.
retribution, but we established these characters, and then it's like, oh no, Samuel Jackson's dead. We got to know Nedry, oh, clever girl. And she's just like, oh yeah, I'll take your kids around. And then at one point she's like, oh, I lost your kids. And
Well, that's
like,
just Jurassic World. Like,
yeah,
that's the major
It is what
complaint
it is.
about the characters overall in that movie, which bothered me less than it bothered a lot of people. So, because I was too busy going, whoa!
I mean, it didn't
Look
bother
at
me.
that
I was
random
just
girl who we saw like a couple times on her phone, and now look at her.
And now it's just extra fun because you're like, Lena Luthor. Oh no. Oh, it's great.
Fun. Yeah,
So, yeah,
right.
glad we did this again also because I really got a lot out of the Omen this time. Holy fuck.
Good.
I'm sure I'll watch 4 at some point. And to anyone out there, in the smallest coincidence, just like the same kind of coincidence between like the daggers and the portrait going in the museum, that's the brother of the dad of the Omen. If anyone happens to be out there who's watching this, who worked on the crew of the Omen remake, I'm sorry if I offended the end results. I just don't like remakes.
Diplomacy is important.
I guess. Do you have anything else you want to say before we go?
No.
All right. Fuck you, Eddie. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Goodbye.